San Jose Hockey Now listeners, welcome back. It has been a couple of weeks since we've seen you all. Welcome, welcome. We have an exciting show for you today. We have Scott Wheeler joining us from The Athletic to talk all things San Jose Sharks and the draft. We also have an interview with Joshua Ravensbergen where we find out, does he go by Josh or Joshua or neither? We have plenty of draft content, lots of Sharks news and league-wide news to catch you up all on. And we're very excited to bring that to you. Unfortunately, Dan Boyle is on vacation. As it turns out, Croatia was calling and he needed to answer the phone. So he is in Croatia this week. But hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll have Dan on with some more draft talk. This is Daphne. Say hello to Daphne. But before all that, I want to have a quick chat with you all about our sponsor, one of our sponsors, Bring Hockey Back, which I'm sure you're all well aware of at this point. Bring Hockey Back makes excellent custom t-shirts, jerseys. They have a feel for what makes hockey culture, San Jose Sharks culture special. They are here to bring you 15% off your first order if you use the promo code San Jose Hockey Now. Working on a little tiny jersey for Daphne, but they haven't sent me one yet. Maybe one day. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this week. It's been a very fun episode. And Scott Wheeler's an awesome dude, and it's great that he joined us. So we will see you soon.
All right, Scott, I want to ask you first. I think this is a very underrated part about your job. Today, Friday, you're headed off to the OHL Draft. You're driving over there. And just the grind of this job. How many days a year are you on the road?
It's about 75 nights a year in hotels. So it's a good chunk of the calendar year away from the family. It comes in waves, though. I don't have the typical sort of NHL beat writer cadence where I'm not away a couple of nights of every week. It comes in these big chunks. Obviously, I have the major events. So U18 Worlds, World Juniors, like that's a 12-day commitment. And then obviously you've got the Memorial Cup, you've got the Frozen Four, you've got the World Junior Summer Showcase and Canada's selection camp, and you go down the list. And then I typically, on top of sort of the major events, all of the All-Star, I do all of the QMJHL, OHL, WHL All-Star games, the CHL USA Prospects Challenge. And then on top of that, I typically have sort of 2 other college trips and 2 other junior trips of my own choice. So I'll go down and watch the program and watch Michigan State and watch Michigan over the course of a weekend, or I'll go to Boston and watch BC and BU, or sort of go to Minnesota and watch Minnesota, that kind of a thing. And then I'll do another couple of junior trips. I'll go down to Saginaw, or I'll go to Regina or Calgary, or that kind of a thing. So it's a lot. The longer trips and this time of the year are particularly tough. Like I came back, we saw each other at the Combine, but I came back about 12 hours before the Combine. I arrived back home in Toronto from the Memorial Cup. So this time of the year is a grind. I've had like a couple nights in the last month with my kids kind of thing. And then obviously off to Kingston tonight for the OHL draft. I don't typically do the OHL draft, but just because this year they're doing it in person, they're doing a centralized draft for the first time in 2 decades. I felt like I should be there to network and see some people. So I'll be there for the night tonight.
Yeah, and I think again, I feel that's really underrated. I think the people who read you, they don't really just understand the grind of it. And the grind of it is obviously watching the players, but also too, it is sort of meeting scouts, and not meeting scouts, but talking with scouts and talking with people in the NHL and the OHL and these different kind of leagues. And so I wanted to kind of put a little spotlight toward that. But I wanted to ask you, of course, about your most recent mock draft. And in your most recent mock draft, you said that you have a hunch. You did use that word, a hunch, that the Sharks might go number 2 with Stenberg. I know that it's been kind of a back and forth thing for a lot of people in their mock drafts. Stenberg, Chase Reid, maybe Carels. So anyway, why number 2 for Stenberg at this moment?
Yeah, I've done 2 mocks, and I mocked Reid in my first one and Stenberg in my second one. That was based off of the information that I had at both of those points in time. the expectation in the league is that they're going to take a defenseman. The Sharks have been the trickiest team for everybody this year to pin down. I have a really good sense of who the Vancouver Canucks like, of who the Chicago Blacks like, of who the New York Rangers like, of who the Toronto Maple Leafs like. And yet it's been tricky to really nail down the Sharks. You talk to people around those players. I'm often talking to people in the Sioux about Chase Reid. I'm talking to people in the WHL about Carson Carels. I've talked to people with Frölunda about Stenberg, and just sort of which were the teams that were around the most this year, and who are the teams that have been hot on these kids, and obviously talking to NHL scouts with other organizations about it all. And the sense I get is that they like all three of those kids a lot, and that's Carls, Reid, and Stenberg. I don't think I know that they took out some others to dinner and Buffalo and that kind of thing. I don't get the sense that Keaton Verhoff or any of those other sort of kids at the top of the draft are seriously in their mix. I think it is down to Carls, Reid, and Stenberg. And the hunch, in terms of the way I talked about it in this most recent mock, is that it feels to me like they're playing this game of secrecy because they're open to moving back, and they don't want the teams that might be interested in moving up to snatch a guy to know whether or not they're taking the guy that they want. And the feeling I've come away with is if they stick at 2, I wonder if they just take Stenberg. Mike Grier has talked again and again and again about taking best player available. Sure. And I do think that Stenberg's play late in the year at Men's Worlds and sort of help solidify him as the consensus number 2, number 3 guy, depending on who you talk to. But I wonder if they stick put, whether it's Stenberg, and if they move back, whether it's the 2D. Now, could they take Carls or Reid at number 2? Could there be some smoke and mirrors there? Yes. But that's the hunch that I have at this point in time, would be that if they stay there, I would probably lean towards expecting them to take Stenberg. And if they move back, whether with a Chicago at 4 or Rangers at 5 or that kind of a thing, that's when you pivot to the defenseman. Now, I know they need the D. They certainly need the D more than they need more firepower up front. But Stenberg, I think, is a tricky player to pass up based off of what he's accomplished. And I think Grier would recognize that.
Is there any kind of indication that Chicago or the Rangers are interested in moving up? Because we talk about moving down, but the other option hasn't really been discussed that much.
I do think that Stenberg would be the perfect fit for the Blackhawks. I think if you look at the top 4 or 5 names in this class, the one player you could identify for the Blackhawks as a guy who would just make a ton of sense for them is Stenberg. So I could see the Blackhawks, who have a ton of prospects, a ton of picks, a ton of capital, to be able to make that kind of a move. If the Blackhawks have decided that Ivar Stenberg is their guy, and they're worried that if the Sharks stay at 2, that they might take that guy, which again circles back to all of the games that I think the Sharks are kind of playing here. I could see the Blackhawks sort of engaging in that discussion. There are a lot of teams that could use a player like Stenberg and may not feel confident that that player is going to be available to them. So, but the Blackhawks are really the one. Like, he just makes a ton of sense as Connor Bedard's running mate of the future, and they've got a number of good young defensemen in Chicago. I don't think they have to chase the Carls or the Reid. It does feel to me like they might have to start to chase a guy like Stenberg, and if they want to get better here and come out of sort of picking in the top 5 every year, this may be the last chance that they get to take a player of Stenberg's caliber. And if you don't get him now, and if you don't think that Anton Frondell is that player in terms of a true superstar running mate for Connor Bedard, then you have to go out and buy it in free agency. And we just know that so few of those guys ever even make it to free agency.
Do you think that Stenberg has that superstar potential?
I think Stenberg is going to be the first or second or third best forward on a contending NHL team. You look around the league. Is he going to be that sort of McDavid, Austin Matthews, Nikita Kucherov? Absolutely not. I don't think that's the ceiling that we're talking about here. Could he be? Now, he doesn't use Tim Stützle anymore, but he used Tim Stützle earlier in the year as his comp. He's used Lucas Raymond more more lately. Could he be a Lucas Raymond, a Tim Stützle, that sort of 80-point player who's a number 2 on a Stanley Cup team? Absolutely. Like, I think that's the kind of player we're talking about. I think he's going to be a top 6 player for Sweden at the Olympics someday. And I think, frankly, I'm higher on Stenberg than I was on Lucas Raymond at the same age. I'm as high on Stenberg as I was on Leo Carlsson at the same age. Now, Leo Carlsson was a 6'2", 6'3" center. Who was a better skater, so that was always a piece of the puzzle with Leo. But from a pure season standpoint, Stenberg had a much better season than Leo did at the same age. Not just in the SHL, but he was more impactful at their World Juniors. He was more impactful at their Men's Worlds. I view Stenberg as like a premium, not a superstar level prospect, but like a premium, top of the lineup, PP1 point per game ceiling type of player.
What do you make of, and I guess this goes back to last year, because last year around this time, there was a lot of momentum for the Sharks. Oh, maybe they're going to draft Frondell. And on draft day, they select Michael Misa, number 2. And Mike Grier says, oh, Misa was our guy all along. You could, believe that or not. But do you think a lot of this smoke about Stenberg, even last year with Frondell, do you feel like that was Sharks generated or not? Like I was, I heard it all too, or was around a lot of it last year too, but I couldn't really figure out just like where exactly is that coming from? Who benefits from what? And so I don't know how you kind of view the smoke with Stenberg and the Sharks this year, and Reid and Carls versus Misa Frondell last year.
Yeah, not to use the language that I use with my 3- and 5-year-old, but I think there was a little bit of fibbing happening last year after the fact about all of that. They did like Anton. I know for a fact that they liked Anton and liked Anton a lot. Now, did Misa always have the edge? Maybe that's true, but I know internally they had debates about Anton. I know that they told people around Anton that they loved him. That was not. I'm sure there could have been some gamesmanship there and some smoke and mirrors happening there to create the uncertainty that I think they're trying to create this year. But they liked Anton a lot, and he was in the mix for them. As for this year, could that be a part of it? Yes, I do think that sort of putting out there the number of guys that they went to dinner with and that kind of a thing, like they have, I think, intentionally cast a wide net to make it harder for other teams to really narrow down on and zero in on who they like. I heard that their scouts were at games for all 3 of those players a lot this season, so it's not as though Mike Grier and his lieutenants were traveling to see one player more than another, or were just constantly in one rink and that kind of a thing. I think it was real last year that they liked both players, and I think it's real this year that they like Carls and Reid and Stenberg. Like I truly think they're high on all 3 of those players.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I checked up on that recently too, on the Frondell part of it, and yeah, I agree or back up what you say there about that. They did like Frondell too, but so the Sharks took 6 players out to dinner, which has to be a league, and might even be a combine record for all we know. We know that they took out Stenberg, they took out Verhoff, they took out Carls, they took out Chase Reid. Any other guesses on who else? I mean, I asked everybody else relevant. Malhotra said no. Smith said no, but in a way that made me think he might have been lying. But anyway, do you have any other guesses on that, Scott?
I would guess Smith's. Smith's is cagey in the best of times.
Yeah, he was cagey how he answered it.
He's been that way with media all year. I actually heard mixed reviews about Smith's in the interview process because I think he was cagey with some NHL teams as well.
Right, wrong people to be cagey with.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat. I don't want to use the word like arrogant or cocky, but he's got a bit of an edge to him when you speak to him, and I think that he has rubbed some people the wrong way a little bit at times this year. I've also caught him in lies before in interviews. So, interesting character, Smith. I would guess that he's one of them. I don't know if you asked Rudolph. I didn't ask around about Rudolph or Bjork.
Did not. At least, I don't believe so. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys, Rudolph, Bjork, Smits. There isn't really anybody else who I think is in that conversation. Maybe they're really high on Malte Gustafsson. He's kind of that next defenseman. But
Gustafsson
no,
had one dinner, and it wasn't with the Sharks. So.
Okay.
One dinner.
I was Pink
I didn't do
Panther-ing
too
that
much
one.
digging on who their other guys were, if I'm being honest. So.
To quote Smits, by the way, so I don't want to misrepresent him, but when I asked him directly, I asked him, did you have dinners with any teams? And he said, not really. So maybe they just went to Chipotle. So
No, he only had a salad, so not
maybe
really.
they had a lunch. Maybe he just had a salad. Yeah, exactly. Who knows, right? So before we kind of move on to other prospects, anything else you hear at the Combine Sharks related?
No, obviously they have that second pick. I have heard things prior to the Combine about sort of potential targets for them late there, and I also just have some guesses about based off of the players that they've drafted in the past, guys that they might like.
At number 20.
At number 20, yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
We're going to get to there in just a second.
Yeah, in terms of at the very top or off-season plans or that kind of a thing, no, the Sharks do a pretty good job of keeping some of that in-house.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah. All right. Well, Scott, let's say the Sharks go with your hunch and pick Stenberg. What Sharks forward do you think they might dangle for a defensive help?
Ooh, I don't know that they should be necessarily playing that game right away. I would like to see this group grow up together and see what they look like and see who presents in the offseason. I'm sure that they would be in on potentially a Rasmus Andersson or a Darren Radish. I mean, that's just me talking hypothetically. I don't know that for a fact. But you would think with sort of the help that they need on the blue line that would become a focus for them in free agency here. They have the money to spend. I would want to see those kids play it out, though. Like, I would want to see what chemistry looks like with, let's say, I mean, you already have built-in chemistry with Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini. Let's say you try Ivar Stenberg and Michael Misa and see what that looks like. You pair a Chernyshov with one of them. You pair an Eklund with one of them. Like, suddenly they would have a lot of options to toy with. And I'd like to see that young group for a couple of years play together. If they take Stenberg, the expectation is that Stenberg's going to play all 82 games in the NHL next year and not just play, but be a good player. Like, I think Stenberg's got a real chance to be in the Calder Trophy conversation next year. I think that's how ready he is. I think he convinced me of that, not just in the SHL this year, but certainly with his play with Lucas Raymond on Sweden's first line at Men's Worlds. That's interesting to me. Like, I wouldn't be rushing to unload a Michael Misa or sort of a stockpile of some of those forwards to go out and chase a defenseman. And I like the idea of keeping that, at least those core 4 or 5 forwards around long term, frankly. Maybe you dangle not that they're going to bring you the defenseman that you want, but maybe you dangle more of a Chernyshov or Quentin Musty or an Eklund than you do those sort of 4 young guys. I would like to see what those 4 really young guys look like long term, and how those pairings could work together on a first line and a second line, and some of the matchup problems that you might present to teams long term with those guys as pairs. Obviously, I would love to see what those 4 potentially look like on an NHL power play together. Like, there's an interesting mix there, and I think it'll sort itself out in terms of who's most valuable, who fits in a trade. Maybe one of those guys ends up in a situation where they want out at some point because they're not getting the opportunity that they thought they were going to get. And because there are too many of them, there is such a thing as too many high-end forwards, right? So, and maybe Chernyshov really emerges and becomes a really important piece for you, and that gives you flexibility to consider moving a Misa or that type of player. But it's still very early. Like, I wouldn't be rushing into any of those decisions here. I'd kind of let this group make of it what they will organically, if you will.
And going back to the defensemen of this draft, the Sharks do kind of go in that direction. It does feel like you mentioned, and it's a thought that or the the vibe that I got talking to people too, that Reeds and Carls seem to maybe be a cut above, at least in the Sharks' eyes and maybe in general. And
I think in the consensus, those are the two top D in this class. There are some who have Keaton or Smith sort of as the second D on their list, and one of those guys third. But if you were to survey NHL scouts today, Reid and Carls would be the two top guys.
Yeah. And where do you, and I've been listening to the Athletic Hockey Show podcast and everything, and there seems to be kind of a debate between you and Corey about the top tier of this class. I know that you have McKenna and Stenberg as kind of their tier, and then the D after that, right?
Yep.
And Corey's kind of the opposite, where he's got the D first, then McKenna, Stenberg, all in the same tier. Do you think that the tier is at least close between Reid, Carls, and McKenna, Stenberg, or is it like that far apart?
I could see a scenario where one of those D sort of hits their ceiling and becomes in a redraft a debate with McKenna and Stenberg long term. Like, let's say 10 years from now, could one of Reid, Carls, Smits, Rudolph, Verhoff, could one of those players become a true number one who goes first or second overall in a redraft? Not only do I think that's possible that one or two of those guys become that, I think it's likely. But I think based off of the information that we have today, I don't think you can confidently predict which one of those it's going to be. And as a result, I just haven't been able to get either one of those players into that tier. Like, if you go back to the 2024 draft, looked similar, right? Like, you had a couple of premium forwards, and then you had Zeev Buium and Sam Dickinson and Carter Yakimchuk and Anton Salayev. And that group and Zayne Parekh, and that group of defensemen was really strong. I would argue that Artyom Levshunov was in that group. I would argue that Artie and Zeev were better players in college this year than Keaton Verhoff. And I would argue that Zayne Parekh had a better junior season that year than Chase Reid, than Carson Carels did this year. And so, or at least a comparable one. And so, were those guys being talked about side by side? Ivan Demidov and the top forwards in that class? To a certain degree, Levshunov was. I think Levshunov, in hindsight, should not have gone ahead of Demidov. And I kind of view Stenberg and McKenna as, if not comparable prospects to Demidov, arguably better prospects to Demidov. And then I also view those defensemen as maybe slightly worse prospects, or having accomplished slightly less than the top D from that class. So if I didn't think that it was close with Levshunov and Demidov, then I'd have an even tougher time now saying that Chase Reid belongs in the same conversation as Gavin McKenna and Ivar Stenberg, who I think are better prospects than Ivan Demidov was, or at least comparable. So I just think it's hard unless you're the Matthew Schaefer or the Rasmus Dahlin. I think it's really, really hard to take a defenseman first overall, and they better have been the best player in their league. And Chase Reid was one of the better players in the OHL this year. He was not what Gavin McKenna was in the WHL a year ago. And that's the distinction for me, is Chase Reid did not put the conversation to bed. And I think you have to put the conversation to bed. So I kind of view Chase Reid and all of these guys more like if they were to go first overall, I would view them more in line with the Aaron Ekblad first overall, the Owen Power first overall, than I would the Matthew Schaefer, Rasmus Dahlin first overall, which I think is a completely different conversation. If there was a Dahlin or a Schaefer in this draft, they would be, if not in that tier with McKenna and Stenberg, above them.
Where would you, it's kind of revisionist history, but where would you put Reid among the top picks, like Levshunov, Jiricek, Nemec, Parekh? Buium,
I'm lower on I'm lower on Artie now than I was, so I would probably slot them comparably. Like, I think now you look at all of those players, I think they're comparable prospects. I still am a big believer in both Zayne and Zeev. I've been higher on most than I had them 4th and 5th on my list in their draft year when they went 9th and 12th. So I'm a big believer in those two kids in particular. To use the Sharks analogy, though, I think Chase Reid's a better prospect than Sam Dickinson is. I think Carson Carels is a better prospect than Sam Dickinson is. Like, they would leapfrog for me on the long-term sort of depth chart priority, that kind of a thing. I think those guys are going to be more impactful players than Dickinson is. And Dickinson was in that group, and Dickinson was a dominant junior player who went to the Memorial Cups and had 100 points and was a force between the playoffs and the Mem Cup and the regular season, had some pretty gaudy numbers if you add them all up. And on top of that was playing 30 minutes a night for the Hunters. And I think Reid is maybe a little bit further ahead than a Dickinson was, for example, at the same age.
Makes sense. And what's interesting there too is like it's not just correlated to points, right? Like obviously Chase Reid brings these other toolkits. So to that point, Scott, what does Stenberg, a 5'11" winger, have to do in terms of production to bring the same value as a 6'2" defenseman in Reid?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's the age-old question: is what's more valuable? Chase Reid uses Zach Werenski. I don't think Chase Reid gets to Zach Werenski. If Chase Reid gets to Zach Werenski, which is a 70-point top 5 defenseman in the league, then Chase Reid's going to be likely a more valuable player than Ivar Stenberg. I think the debate really, though, becomes more likely about an 80-point winger versus a 45, 50-point defenseman. And maybe if Chase Reid plays 25 minutes a night, the conversation shifts. But what if Chase Reid's playing 21 minutes a night and he's a 45, 50-point guy? And that's an incredibly valuable player. That's like a $10 million player in today's league. But what if he's that and Stenberg is an 85, 90-point winger? That's an interesting debate. There are teams that will tell you that they'll take the 45, 50-point right shot guy over the 85-point winger. I'm not sure that I'm there though. Like I think if you're passing up that kind of a winger, which is also a $10 million player in the league now, you better be darn sure about the defenseman. And I just think there's enough in the profile of a Reid or a Carels to be just a little bit unsure about. And I'm not unsure about the projection on Stenberg. Like I'm very confident that Stenberg gets to that level.
Yeah,
I think there are a wider range of outcomes for a Reid or a Carels.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit because we mentioned it. We'd only got a couple more minutes with you. Let's talk about the number 20 overall pick for the Sharks. In your recent mock, you had Tommy Blyle after they chose Stenberg at number 2. Why Tommy, and any other options you see around that slot for the Sharks?
Well, I think if they take Stenberg, they're going to take a defenseman. Like it's just a clear need in the pool at that point. There are a number of defensemen in that range that I think that they would consider. Blyle is the big one though. Like I think Blyle goes in the early 20s. I wouldn't even be shocked if Blyle went 19th to Utah or 17th to Washington. Like there are some teams in that range that I could see considering Tommy. I think if Tommy doesn't go to the Sharks at 20, that the Philadelphia Flyers at 21 would strongly consider him. Like there are just a number of teams in that range that I think are going to like Tommy. I'll start with him. Very, very interesting player. He kind of came out of nowhere a little bit this year and was not just good, but was arguably the best rookie in the CHL and arguably the top defenseman in the CHL, or certainly the top defenseman in the QMJHL. He's an excellent skater, like tremendous mobility, footwork, edges, moves the puck really well. He doesn't have, despite his frankly high-end point totals, he doesn't have that dynamic quality that a Chase Reid or a Xavier Villeneuve have, but projects to run a power play, projects to be a sort of PP points guy in the NHL. And then I think because of the mobility, even though he's sort of just under 6 feet, because of the mobility, I think he's going to be able to defend at a high level and use his smarts and his IQ, and would make sense as a play. If they don't believe that if they don't take a D at 2, and then they aren't sure that Sam Dickinson is a power play 1 guy of the future for them, it would make sense to take a guy like Tommy, who gives you that kind of potential to be a power play guy for you long term. So But there are other D in that
Mhm.
range. I think that's a little early for guys like Juho Pipparainen and William Hawkinson and Maxim Sokolovsky. Sokolovsky was a name that I heard a lot about at the combine and into the combine. Obviously, 6'7",
Hard to miss,
240-pound defenseman, and he looks like Frankenstein walking around the hotel there. Like he's a physical specimen, right? So I think Sokolovsky goes early. In that range too, like in the 20s. That's the sense I have now, and a year ago nobody even knew who this kid was. So if they go D early, it's a completely different conversation at 20. I think there's still a scenario where they take 2D there. Like they could still take a Tommy Blyle there, or a Ryan Lynn if he gets there. I don't think Lynn gets there, but it wouldn't shock me if Lynn gets there. I think Lynn could be there for Utah at 19. I could see Utah taking him. But the forwards are a different conversation there. Like if you don't take Stenberg and you want just like a projectable safe pick there, there's guys like Ilya Morozov, Jack Hextall, potentially Oliver Suvanto, like projectable, will play for you as a bottom 6 center in the league type of players. And then there's the talented wingers, right? Like you could chase another talented winger. You could chase potentially an Elton Hermanson or Nikita Klepov or a JP Hurlburt. Like there are other players there that could make sense if they feel like those are their BPAs and they just want to take a swing on a guy there and operate from a position of strength, which they obviously are operating out of in their pool. Like they don't really have to chase anything. Obviously, D is maybe a little bit of a greater need, but they can afford with that second pick to potentially have some fun with it, and I'll be interested to see which direction they go.
One more question on Tommy Blyle, real quick. What do you think about his going back to the queue for another year before going back to college thing? Is that set in stone going to happen, or is there still a possibility he goes?
No, that's a done deal. I spoke with people in Moncton about it, and they thought he was coming back, but you never really can trust the people in the queue or the people with his club team because, of course, they want it out there that he's coming back. But then I pulled him aside at the combine and asked him bluntly, like, are you actually going back to Moncton? And I know NHL teams kind of pushed him on that last week to say, I don't know whether we think that's the best decision for you. You sort of accomplished everything there is to accomplish in the QMJHL this season. And his response to them was, well, I didn't win. And so I guess I didn't accomplish everything that you maybe thought I wanted to accomplish. And so I think he likes the idea of going back to Moncton, being a top player at that level again, and chasing that final victory that obviously just evaded Moncton this year in their loss to Chicoutimi in the Q final. And then on top of that, I do think the Chase Reid MSU element of it is very real. They left a D spot open for him. They were happy to bring Tommy in, but if you know Adam Nightingale and that coaching staff at all, nothing is given. And I think he saw that Chase Reid was going in there, that Chase Reid was going to be the PP1 quarterback, and he thought to himself, if I wait, there's a chance that Chase is one and done. And if that happens, then I enter in as a freshman the following year in a much better position to play my game and to have the impact that I think I can have. So I think Reid being in front of him on the depth chart there was a sort of a secondary factor in his decision to go back to Moncton. That team and that blue line at Michigan State is going to belong to Chase Reid next year.
Scott, thank you so much for your time. I just want to close off with a couple more quick things if you got the time for it.
Yep.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, Scott, is that you're not just about the draft. In early April, you released a Sharks prospects pool ranking. You had them up at number 2. You still included Misa and Dickinson and Chernyshov. So that's sort of why the Sharks prospects pool is still pretty high up there. It's probably going to be a little bit lower in the coming years. But anyway, I just wanted to ask in part a couple questions related to that. First, all these years covering the Sharks, and Mike Grier took over in 2022. Chris Morehouse took over in 2023, along with Scott Fitzgerald. what kind of trends have you identified with the Sharks? You look at their prospect pool, a couple of things seem to emerge, like Mike really likes to chase after or go after that power forward type winger. You see like Musty and Houghton and Cam Lunn. They do have actually a number of, maybe surprising to people, a number of smallish defensemen there.
Yep.
Polkan, Cagnoni, Selin Wallinius. But anyway,
Haviland.
what trends have you noticed?
Haviland too.
Yeah,
Yep.
they haven't been afraid to take risks. I've respected the hell out of that with their group. They have done a really, really good job on the whole. There were people who didn't like Quentin Musty and didn't like Chernyshov, and I respected that their willingness to take those players. Cam Lund was very raw when he was selected and still had a lot of work to do. Like, they've taken some projects. Obviously, Hoshi Wang is the big one. That one might come back to bite them. He still just has so far to go. But I appreciate a team that at least is willing to take a loss on a guy and willing to bet on a guy and bet on development. And that comes with potentially with a player like Hoshi. That comes with potentially missing on some guys with a first pick in the second round. But it also comes with hitting on a Chernyshov in that range as well, right? And I tend to gravitate towards the teams that are comfortable with a little risk reward. Cagnoni, another guy, like, teams just saw him and his size and said no thank you, despite the fact that he was a top defender in the WHL, not just offensively but defensively, and despite the fact that he was an excellent skater, and he's still trying to carve out a full-time role in the NHL, but he's still a value pick where he was selected, right? So even if this is all he is, even if he's just an AHL power play guy who plays 15 games a year in the NHL, he's still good value. And even if Musty doesn't hit, I just liked the willingness to take Musty, a kid that other teams didn't necessarily like, and just bet on him and work with him and try to develop him and help him sort of find what his game is going to look like at the next level. So I've really had honestly a deep appreciation for the way they've drafted.
And finally for me, go ahead, Keegan.
I was going to say any picks that are kind of like that this year, you think, later on in the draft?
Ooh, I mean, in terms of like that, the Musty, the winger who frustrates people and isn't exactly what you want a winger to be. In that frame, there's really two big ones. I don't know that they'll take that kind of a risk on them, but the two big ones are Ryan Rubrick of the Niagara Ice Dogs and Marcus Nordmark of Djurgården. Rubrick, the criticism is that he's 6'3" and he's extremely talented and he's got an NHL shot, but he's viewed as kind of lazy and disengaged and inconsistent. With Nordmark, the criticism is about body language and selfishness and bad decision making. And I think people are more frustrated with Nordmark than they are with Rubrick. With Rubrick, they want more, but they don't hate the kid or the player necessarily. They just want him. They just want him to figure it out. With Nordmark, there is a camp of people around the league that just like cannot stand watching him. But those are the two like first round talents. Absolutely. Will either of them be first round picks? Probably not. And so if a team does take them, it'll be at the end of the first round, and it'll be a team that is taking a bit of a risk, right? Arthur Kaliev was kind of that as well. When he went early second round, like, he was viewed as kind of that highly gifted NHL shot, good size, but kind of lazy winger. And those guys obviously drive scouts crazy and often bust, frankly, despite having the talent. They often do bust. Like, it's not, the NHL scouts don't make that up. So those are kind of the two guys. Not saying that necessarily that the Sharks will even like either of those two kids, but if you wanted to take a big swing, those are the two names in that sort of late first, second round range.
I also heard that Nordmark interviewed very poorly at the Combine.
Yes. Yeah, not a surprise. And he was telling people, I think people went in not liking him already, but he was telling people if he's not given an opportunity with Djurgården next year, i.e. if he's not on their power play and in their top 9 next year, he's just going to try to break his contract and leave for the London Knights, who own his import rights in the OHL. And I don't think that attitude necessarily presented itself best to NHL clubs who obviously want these kids to maybe stick with it. Maybe try to earn your opportunities.
He
He's an
sounds like a
interesting
good
cat.
Golden Knights pick in the third round or whenever they pick. But anyway, Scott, I did want to ask you one more question of the Sharks prospects pool because you follow it so closely. Again, you're not just watching the juniors, watching the AHL. So which of the prospects in their pool, obviously not counting Misa, Dickinson, and Chernyshov, because those guys are basically NHLers, but if you exclude them, who do you think is the most likely to help the Sharks next year?
I would actually like to see Cagnoni get a long look here. I know he's had looks. I would like to see him slotted on the third pairing and playing on the second power play for 25 games and see what that looks like. Because I think he's got a path to become, and I know Sam Girard has now bounced around with multiple teams, but I think about that type of player, the Olin Zellweger, the Sam Girard, that sort of depth, offensively inclined defenseman. They need someone to run both of those power plays long term. And I think I don't think Cagnoni's necessarily going to be a PP1 guy long term, or that sort of Shane Gostisbehere type long term, who's just has like a Mike Green or a Ghost who just has like a really good career as just like a PP specialist. I think he's got to find a different niche, and it's probably like defending well at 5-on-5 with his mobility in a depth role, and then running a second power play. And there's a job for that type of player in the league still. So he's probably the one. Like I've also just been a big fan of the kid and the player, and I've enjoyed watching him play at different levels and chatting with him over the years and that kind of a thing. So I'm kind of rooting for him a little bit, but he's really close. Like I really do believe he's close.
All right. Well, Scott, thanks so much for your time. I know you got a long drive to Kingston. And I just did want to close off, though, that one of the great things about Scott, too, is if you haven't read his profiles on every draft prospect, he's got them on pretty much all of the biggies of this draft. A couple thousand words about Carson Carels, a couple thousand words about Chase Reid. So if you want to know more about these prospects, check that out too. Besides Scott's mock drafts and his Sharks or his prospects pool rankings, they work you really hard there, Scott.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the shout out. It's going to be a lot of fun the next few weeks too. We got lots more coming, and I have 3 more of those features you're talking about coming. One on JP Hurlburt, one on Ethan Belchez, and one on Xavier Villeneuve. Those are the last 3 that I've been working on. So those will be out in the next week or 2 here.
How many do you write of those a year? About 4 for each draft?
Typically, like I try to do the top 20 or so guys, not necessarily the top. Obviously, Villeneuve's not going to go in the top 20, but maybe the top 20 names that people are most interested in. Sure. And then I'll do 1 or 2 story. If there's a really, really good human interest angle or a really, really good backstory on a second or third or fourth round pick, I'll do a couple of those every year as well. So Jackson Cover was obviously the big one this year. The Ruck twins were a big one this year. So I do those deep dives. And Cover was probably my favorite story I wrote this year, frankly. And he won't even be he'll be a second round pick. So, it normally ends up just above 20 of the guys in the class, sort of full feature length stories on them.
Awesome. Okay, well, go check those out. And Scott, go get your car, and we'll talk with you soon, all right?
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks, Scott. San Jose Hockey Now listeners, we are so excited to announce our newest sponsor, BladeTech. In hockey, only 2 things touch the ice, your skates and your stick. I had a friend once tell me, always invest in anything that connects you to the earth. Your tires, your mattress, and similarly, your steel and your sticks if you're playing hockey. Funny enough, I got into BladeTech a couple of years ago, and my nephew noticed that Burnsy was wearing BladeTech and told me it was the best steel he ever skated on. Hands down, the best steel I've ever used. Don't take my word for it. Obviously, the NHL Ironman leader is a huge advocate, Brent Burns, for BladeTech. So that's all the proof you really need. BladeTech uses the highest quality steel. And honestly, your blade should never break. especially when your kid is only 9 years old and weighs 90 pounds. That's why BladeTech offers a 1-year warranty, way better than the 1 to 2 months from the OEM. The edges stay sharper much longer, giving you more bite and tighter turns that you could rely on. BladeTech is best known, of course, for their patented FlexForce blade technology that gives you a speed boost. Also, unique spring action first saves your knees and then launches you quicker down the ice. You could really feel it, and trust me, we need every edge at my age. Also, they're doing twigs. We'll talk about that in a later segment, but you can now use our exclusive special code, San Jose Hockey Now 10, for a discount when ordering with BladeTech. Go get your steel, go get your twigs, message us, comment, let us know. We are so excited to bring BladeTech on. They got their Shorzy mini sticks, so couldn't be happier because it's a product I genuinely use and love. So thank you, BladeTech, and welcome. Great segment with Scott. He just brings so much information and on all the prospects. So obviously Scott sees Stenberg as now in his most recent mock as a clear number 2 pick. Or maybe not so clear.
He does so clear. He said a hunch.
He said a hunch, and to your point, he also has labeled Reid as a bubble tier 1 prospect. That being said, just want to check in with you guys on if anything's changed, especially obviously Stenberg's performance most recently. What do you guys think still? Who will the Sharks pick at number 2? Sheng, you first.
I am still leaning toward Reid right now, but I can see that it changes by the draft, and maybe it does go toward Stenberg, maybe it does go toward Carels still. And these things, again, you're trying to kind of ferret out this information, right? And so it's hard to say, but I would liken it to, though, I was thinking about this when we were talking to Scott, that I think with Reid, and this is now more a personal thing than talking about what I think the Sharks will do, but that I still see the projectability with a Reid. And so if you look at, I think another good draft, we talked about the 2024 draft, but I think another good comp is the 2017, right? That's the Patrick Heischer draft, right? And so at that time of the draft, understandably so, Heischer and Patrick were way ahead of everybody. And Patrick is a different case. He had concussion.
Yeah.
And so him not panning out is a whole different thing. But obviously in a redraft of that draft, as good as Heischer has been, that Makar would go ahead of him, that Heiskanen will go ahead of him in a redraft. I'm not guaranteeing that that's going to happen with Reid. We don't know, but I see the projectability with Reid and his talent, that we could be talking in the same kind of way in 5-10 years. And if you're the Sharks, and again, Scott asks a good question. How sure are you that this is going to happen? Obviously, you can't be 100% sure of any of this. But if you have a good feeling, a good certainty for Reid, then that is ultimately a more valuable player. And so that's kind of where I fall in terms of what I think the Sharks will do. Right now, I'm still leaning toward Reid, but again, though, that could change in the next 2 weeks.
Next 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yes. I get a text right now. So
yeah, I'm gonna basically have my cake and eat it too. Where I say the Sharks pick Carson Carels. I want them to pick. I want them to pick Chase Reid. And then I would choose Stenberg for my own team, but that's a different thing. So I get all three.
You made 3 different choices.
That's what I'm saying. I get all 3.
The fuck are you talking about?
No, I mean they're all different things, right? Like if I was GM of the Sharks, I would choose Chase Reid. If I was a betting man, I would say Carson Carels, just because there's just enough of this like weirdness that they like him, plus the Prince George connection. He seems like a very Mike Grier pick. They need a D, maybe him. And then
Can I bring back,
lastly,
interrupt you, that quote that he had that I highlighted from the
Sure.
combine? What was it? He said something like, someone asked him if he had been chirped this year on the ice, a good chirp, and he's like, "Well, I was called a psychopath by somebody, but honestly, I took that as a compliment." I mean, that's a great quote. That's priceless.
Also,
And,
we'll learn later, big Dairy Queen guy.
big Dairy Queen guy. We will learn that to preview a Joshua Ravensbergen interview that we're going to have at the end of the show. Anyway, yeah, and then I would choose Ivar Stenberg for my own Half-Whole Hockey Sharks because he fits very well, and I think he is the second best prospect.
Oh, okay. So that's how you're
That's what I
defining
mean.
it. So, okay, so
basically, I will say that this whole like bubble Chase Reid thing, like tier 1 or whatever, it's getting closer for me. I keep watching more of Chase Reid, and there's just more and more that I really, really like about his game, and I've liked him for a very long time. But since he could be a very realistic choice for the Sharks, I've been watching a lot, and he has a lot of special qualities. He really does. He thinks the game so quick, and he makes decisions so quick, defensively, offensively. He's got like an amazing he got great hands, great shot. I think at times he needs to be more engaged defensively, but when he is engaged, he can lay people out. He can steal the puck back. Like when he has that motor going, he looks like some of the best, like D. It looks like the best D in the draft, and reminds me of NHL D that can kind of push play like that. So I really like Chase Reid. He's still my number 3 prospect overall, and it's only because 1 and 2 I think are really solidly going to be first line wingers, and I think that's kind of been the debate, right? Like I feel like their trajectory is first line winger, pretty not certain, but pretty high up there certainly. And Reid, there's a lot more projection that you have to do, and the production wasn't. It was fine, but
Scott points out,
he also didn't have a great team. Like there was one player on his team that was above a point a game, and that player was like Marco Mignosa, I think it was. He's like 20 or 20. He's old for the OHL, and everybody else was not. They have Brady Martin, but he wasn't there the whole time, and he's a good offensive piece, but even he was just a point a game. So I don't know. I think when you watch those games, it's Chase Reid leading all of the offense. It's get the puck to Reid, have him get it into the zone and try and make something happen, or get it back to Reid at the point, have him make some moves and make something happen. So it was a lot on him, and I think college is going to be good for him in a way, just to get him a more used to working with high skill players. They're going to have a great team next year too, so I'm excited for him to go to college, and I think that's the best fit for him.
Yeah, I think it's a good time too to kind of remind people of what Craig Button says, which makes sense in this case, that once again, that it's not about what they're doing this year. It's about projecting them out 3 to 5 years from now. Obviously, based on the resume this year, I mean, Stenberg's the number 1 pick, like easily ahead of McKenna. Smits is right there too, just because, Smits played in the fucking Olympics. Stenberg, World Championships, right? He had for a draft eligible, first draft eligible year, he had like the top 5 Olympic or World Championships ever.
Yep.
So all that being said, it's not about, and Scott said this, and I've mentioned this before too, that who's going to win the Calder next year? I actually would probably put my money on Stenberg, even over McKenna. But it's not about who's going to win the Calder for you next year. It's about 5 years from now, who's going to help you win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And if they all hit the way that you hope, and McKenna is like an all-star winger and the Kucherov light a little bit, and Stenberg is Lucas Raymond, and again Chase Reid becomes that number 1 defenseman, that top 10 defenseman in the league. Top 10 defenseman in the league is more valuable, and so that's again how I'm kind of seeing it.
No, it's fair, and from my perspective, I'm still on Reid. Is what I would like to see based on projectability as well. And like yourself, Keegan, the more I see in him the last month, 2 months, I just, there's more and more in his game that I like. His gap control, his angles, But, Carls has also been growing up the ranks as I now, ever since we've gotten the draft, as I watch more of his game as well. And I'm a big Charlie McAvoy fan. We talked to Marco Sturm about that when he was on a couple months ago. And I see that sort of game in him. And we get to this later, and Sheng, you wrote a great piece on sort of the Sharks decor and what we can learn from the finalists this year. So we'll get into that a little more. But, I wanted to throw something else out here. And Stenberg obviously just looks so good, and we all like his game. And what I find interesting is something that I wanted to throw at you guys as a potential option that I haven't heard enough of, which is akin to the Vegas Golden Knights and what they've done, the last couple of years, which is draft the best person on the board, based on like almost immediate, like who's best at that moment. And then what you do is you build asset value in your organization, and then you can flip that asset to now anybody. And we've seen it, to acquire, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think getting Mark Stone works. Getting Pacioretty for Suzuki doesn't work, right? So you see different examples of this. But that's an option too. And Scott talked a little bit about when we asked him, who can you dish if you bring Stenberg in? But he's also potentially on the table as well. I like the idea of what Scott said of let it play out, because it would be too much fun, too exciting to see him potentially play with the Celebrini, but that could potentially build his value. And so, I mean, you have more options and you build asset value right away. So any thoughts there, guys?
Yeah, a lot of teams like Vegas, like Carolina, they build it's not always choosing just for the team that they're building. They're choosing for value from the pick, right? And then they just kind of use that value either to become part of their team like Carolina does, or to become part of their team by trading them away like Vegas does. But they just they use the draft as asset accumulation rather than trying to, the old school way of trying to build the team with the draft. So it's a different kind of mindset, and it's not wrong. I mean, I think that's also a reason why the Ravensbergen pick was really good too. I mean,
yeah, I was going to say that the Sharks do that too. Yeah, that's the same kind of thinking.
And you can kind of, as long as they maintain that value, you kind of store that value and use it later on if you need to. I think eventually when the Sharks transition into a contending team, that's what's going to happen to their first round picks. As soon as a couple of years from now, probably. I don't know about Stenberg though. I think that he's too good to just unless you were getting a star, and then why not just trade the 2 overall pick for whoever the star is available, if there is one, but maybe there's not one available right now. But
the one thing I would add to what you said there, Keegan, though, is that depending on your certainty of a Chase Reid hitting or a Carls hitting, that as a number 1 defenseman, not just as a top 4 guy, but as a true blue number 1 guy, top 10 defenseman in the league, right? In that kind of caliber that McAvoy is in, or obviously, Carels or Werenski, who maybe Chase Reid is or isn't. Scott says that maybe that's not quite Chase Reid's ceiling, but still, we're talking top 5, top 10 defensemen in the league. That's so hard to acquire that if you think reasonably that one of these guys is that this is your chance to get him. You're not likely to get him in a trade. Yeah, you can accumulate your assets, but even with that accumulation, it's not necessarily likely that you'll find not just the right player, right? Because obviously the right defensemen have sort of hit the market, but it's also the right timing, the right age, the right contract, all these other factors, right? That make it harder. We've talked about this a lot. Let's say Zach Werenski hit the market tomorrow, right? Sounds great and all, but the guy is 28. And is that really ideal for where Macklin at 19, where the Sharks are? Maybe not. Yes, maybe not, right? And so all those factors. And so again, it just that's the kind of the conundrum or the quandary that the Sharks are in. It's a good problem to have, but it's just how likely do you think one of these defensemen is going to be your number 1 of the future? And if you don't think it's as likely as you're comfortable with, then yeah, maybe you do opt for a Stenberg. But it's hard to get a number one defenseman, though. That's just my point.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And Keegan, to add to yours as well, using Carolina as an example, Tulski, the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, whose background is just fascinating, obviously brings a lot of, they just draft so well. But another thing that they do very well is he sort of deploys like game theory, optimal gameplay, which is like a mathematical sort of based play style in poker. Then he sort of applies that to hockey, where if you look at what he's done even in the last 24 months with Rantanen and some of these other moves, they really acquire players that are best for their system, like Taylor Hall. And I think that's an interesting point as well, because if you were going to do that, I can talk, I can see the point into how Reid over Carels, if you were to go with a defenseman, because of his transition game and the way the Sharks want to play and get the puck out of the zone and to the forwards and play fast transition game and a rush game. So that's another thing that I think is worth considering is, and this goes back to the Craig Button point, where it's not just the best player, it's the best player based on the team and the style and the commitment to the way that team wants to play. And that's, again, why I keep coming back to Reid. Another point to why I keep coming back to him. But just wanted to throw it out there with the Stenberg possibility of drafting him. And then, obviously, if you were to do something like that, like the sort of what Vegas has done a lot the last couple of years, and obviously it works, and you can kind of see that. And so what I find really interesting in that is, if the Sharks do that, like, he could bring so much value, Stenberg, in terms of a trade asset to all the teams. So you really just open up your options. So anything else?
It's really advantageous that we got number 2. We have a lot of options. I still don't believe that they're going to trade down. I wish I believed it, but I just don't believe it. I don't know if like a team like Chicago is going to want to spend the assets rather than just continuing to wait and see who falls at number 4, especially
if you're going into the tinfoils talk, though, like tinfoil hat talk, like maybe that's why the Stenberg smoke is stronger now, because then that tells Chicago, hey, we might take your guys. So like,
I mean, it would be an amazing get if we did trade down and we got another D prospect and we got Chase Reid at number 4. I would be over the moon happy. But
I will say that I did hear some, I guess we could talk more about what I heard at the Combine, but one of the things I did hear, and the overwhelming noise for Vancouver, is that they're going Malhotra. So just
sure,
that's what I understand. But someone did tell me that, and I don't think he was lying to me. He may not be informed enough about it, but someone that is, anyway, he told me that Vancouver likes Reid a lot. so there's a lot of kind of smoke going on. So anyway, though, yeah.
And thanks everybody for being on the live stream last week that we did, where I just kind of reviewed the Reid versus Stenberg. If you haven't seen it, it's up on our YouTube. Reid versus Stenberg mock drafts and rankings to see where everybody has them ranked and everything. That was a lot of fun, and we'll hopefully be able to do more of them in the future, and then obviously have a live stream during the draft too. So stick around for that too.
Oh, that reminds me too. Just a quick related to that. Prospect scrimmage on July 2nd. So hopefully we have a live stream for that too. So yeah, so look out for that. So.
All right. So obviously we're missing our companion Dan Boyle today.
The head of the centipede.
Yeah.
He's the butt today.
Yeah.
Which is
I'm the head today. I am the head.
Oh, okay, you're getting
I am the captain.
So we'll once he's back on, we'll talk about some other things. We'll see if it's even relevant by our next episode. But obviously, Pavelski, being out there as a name for a potential head coach for the Maple Leafs. Any thoughts on that, Sheng?
Well, I think that's it makes sense, but it's also surprising because last we talked with Joe, he was comfortable just kind of hanging out with his kid and coaching his kid, but his kid just got drafted to USHL. So actually the second it happened, now it's like, okay, now I've got a little more free time. Now somebody else is going to take over Nate's development. And the obvious roadmap for Pavelski is Dan Boyle's Dan's good friend, Martin St. Louis, who went from coaching his junior team to taking over the Montreal Canadiens, and in his 5th year behind the bench for the Canadiens, took the Canadiens just now to the Eastern Conference Finals. And so could that happen with Pavelski? I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, right? I mean, he is one of those guys that kind of whatever he wants to do post hockey, in hockey, he's gonna do. So like he wants to be a head coach, he wants to be more chill and work in development like Jumbo. He wants to be the president of our organization, he wants to be a GM one day. If he works for that, he can get that. So if this is kind of his direction, then it makes I obviously first thought is, okay, this is not going to work, or it's unusual. It is unusual, right? But but if it is going to work, it is going to be a guy like Joe Pavelski.
I would never bet against Pavs. No
Exactly.
matter what he chooses to do.
Exactly.
I am doubling down on him every single time. So
exactly.
He would excel.
The just the front office situation there if they do hire Pavs, right? They get Matt Sundin, who's not really had any kind of executive role. They get John Chaika, who's had a checkered past and an executive role, and then they get a completely rookie NHL coach in Pavelski. It's like, we'll just throw it at the wall, see what happens with the Leafs. But they're all good names, so
and
interesting. And McKenna, they just get McKenna.
It is definitely an interesting mix, yeah.
Yeah, interesting times in Leafs land after a decade of what do we call it? Mediocrity? Good
but
mediocrity.
Maybe they need to shake it up and not go with people always talk about the recycled guys, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Tree Livings and the Berubes. And look, Berube has won a Stanley Cup. Tree Living has built good teams. So I'm not trying to discredit what these guys and guys before them have done. But yeah, maybe it's time for that kind of shakeup.
Yeah, they should draft. I don't know. Albert Smith's number 1, so then we get McKenna number 2. Boom, easy peasy.
But I did want to also mention with Dan not being on, I know a lot of you are looking forward to him talking about Reid and Carels. So that's still planned for our next episode, which will be before the draft.
Yep.
So Dan is on vacation. So anyway, sorry for not having that on, but we will get that on for you next time.
So going back to the Pavs as a head coach thing, and you had said something about Berube winning a cup, obviously with St. Louis. So this is a fun stat that I heard recently from a friend. How many coaches do you guys think in NHL history have won a Stanley Cup with multiple different teams? So you win a cup with one team, you leave, you win another cup with another team.
As a player or as a coach?
Only as a coach.
Oh, as a coach, only as a coach.
It's not that many, right? Isn't it? I remember there's a stat where it's better to hire a coach that's never won a Stanley Cup because they almost never win a different Stanley Cup with a different team.
Yeah,
so
Scotty
NHL
Bowman,
history,
Scotty Bowman, obviously, that's the one that stands out. I
don't know.
No, not Daryl, not Tortorella.
Exactly.
Maybe Tortorella if he keeps 2 more wins.
If he keeps going, he's close.
He's got 2 more to go. He's got 2 more to go. I mean, there's got to be more than Scotty Bowman, but that's the one that obviously stands out.
You would think.
There's not even one more? 2 more?
If you go after 1953, Scotty's the only one.
Okay, so in modern and post-expansion. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
So there's something there. The other 2, by the way, Tommy Gorman and Dick Irving Sr. So, and so that's kind of interesting. And so you think about that. I've started to think about this a little bit as what could be the reasoning for that? Because you think it would happen more than once. So just putting that out there. So, another case for Pavs as head coach.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah,
all right.
that's very strange. It's like a bunch of players or a bunch of coaches probably have gotten really close, but just
Right,
can't
the
get
second
over the
time
hump.
around, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Tortorella, right now.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
he's an
Like,
example
are
of
their
that, but-
systems cracked because now they've been studied so much?
Yeah.
And it's obviously going to be a multifactorial thing, but I've been just ruminating on all these theories as to why that could be, and what is a new coach? Does their voice go stale the second time around in the locker room, and just so many things. So just kind of interesting.
Yeah, or like a guy like Cassidy led Boston to at least one final, if not one final, but yeah, didn't win it all with them. But then obviously with Vegas, he won it 3 years ago.
Mhm.
So
Or Pete DeBoer, who just keeps going to Stanley Cup finals but can never win them.
yeah, never or conference finals, right, and can never win them. Or
Yeah.
like a Laviolette, right, who won it. He was Carolina's coach a long time ago, right? But he's I don't know if Laviolette's been to the final. I know he's been a conference final, I believe, but yeah, maybe not the finals though, right? So anyway, though, yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat. Just kind of interesting because you see these recycling of, coaches' track records and then people rehiring them based on that. But if you were just to apply, which is obviously what you wouldn't do, is, just some analytics to it, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't hire a coach after they won a cup, statistically speaking. Obviously, that's productive. But okay, so continuing on to the combine. Shangers, you were there, and I heard something, I think in the Discord about an Airbnb story.
Oh yeah. No, that's. I also put that out on Twitter, but yeah, I just couldn't run to it really quickly. So it's my fault in a sense too that I picked a very cheap Airbnb. But I had to pick cheap ones because I really stretch out the travel dollar, and I thank everybody who does contribute to my travel. But anyway, yeah, the first night I was at this Airbnb. At first, actually, I was really pumped with it because I walk into Airbnb and it has like a bathroom, a kitchen, a full, or actually the reason I got it was because it had its own bathroom, but it also has a kitchen, which wasn't advertised in the listing, and also a bedroom, so basically it's an apartment unit. It's kind of, like in somebody's house, but it's like an attic, but it's like a whole kind of apartment unit. And so I thought, oh, this is great. This is a sweet deal. It was like $70 a day, basically, right? Taxes, everything included, and it was within 3 miles of the combine, which is by the arena. Oh, and before I forget too, there's a really good place there. One of the best restaurants I've been to on the road this year. It's called Ballyhoo. It's a sausage place, and some of the best mac and cheese I've ever had too. So check that out. But anyway, so I walk in. I'm really happy about this place. The first night, I see a roach in the bathroom. And it's one roach, and I try to talk myself into like, well, I don't really want to move. That's a big part of it because it's just a pain in the ass to move and look for a place to move to. But also to like, I mean, I didn't grow up like rich, like there were roaches in my house, whatever. So I was like, okay, you know what? If it's in the bathroom, if the roach and we come to an agreement and the roach stays in the bathroom and
You're just gonna be friends?
yeah, just in the
little
bathroom.
Ratatouille.
If I see Buddy just in the bathroom and there's a kitchen in between and then there's the bedroom. So I'm like, as long as I don't see any in the bedroom, I can live with this. It's for 5 more nights. It's very cheap. It's convenient. I mean, the inconvenience of moving in the middle of obviously a work trip, which the combine was, is obviously very, very high. So I probably shouldn't have done that because that led to more trouble later on. But anyway, the second night, I see a couple more roaches in the bathroom. I'm like, okay, this isn't good.
You're in trouble now.
I'm in trouble now.
Like a couple, like 3, 4?
Two more.
Two more.
more.
Okay, yeah.
2 more.
Okay, not a few.
And
a couple.
not the first one because I killed the first one. So maybe it was his friends cruising for revenge, So yeah. But either way, okay. But still, though, it still doesn't. It still wasn't in the bedroom, and so I'm like, okay, again. I can live with this to a point. Until at 3 a.m. that night, I saw one skitter across the bedroom. Like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. And
Who lives in the main house? Beetlejuice?
It's the guy from Men in Black, like he's he's
coming out of the cups.
He comes out of the.
I will say, like, every Airbnb I've stayed at in Buffalo, and I've been to, like, I've stayed at a Buffalo Airbnb like 3 or 4 times. They're often like very old houses,
Yeah.
And so, right. So like, doesn't mean I'm just saying, like, not that they didn't have roaches that I saw before, but just that they're old houses, So, and that does happen. I guess. Right. But anyway, so it was 3 a.m. though. And I had to get up for the combine, get up at, 9 a.m. Nothing crazy, but still, like, I don't want to change a place at 3 a.m. at night.
Mhm.
So I basically, that morning, I pack everything up and I take all my stuff to the combine, my luggage and, the way the combine kind of works too is like, there's basically a very famous, there's a lobby where everyone kind of hangs out, writers, people from the league, and it's just sort of like a networking kind of area, right? And so, yeah, so it's kind of awkward to bring all my stuff up there, but I mean, whatever, it's a good story to tell people. But anyway, I assume though that like, look, like, it's roaches. I'm gonna get my money back. Like, this is kind of, there are no roaches mentioned in my listing, in the original listing I put. Even if like, yeah, like the listing is cheap and I'm taking a chance on it a little bit, right? And there weren't like a lot of reviews associated with it, right? But like, okay, still though, like, yeah, like you don't expect that. And so anyway, all day, like besides all the work I'm doing that day, I think that was the day that I probably interviewed Chase Reid and I put out that story, right? I'm also looking for like the right hotel stay. And
Mhm.
no, I can't stay right by the combine because that's like a couple $100 a night, right? Whereas like, again, compared to $70 a night. So I'm trying to look for like what's going to make sense in sort of the budget frame. I thought I would be getting all the money back from Airbnb. So the first real sign of trouble though is when the Airbnb owner he gets back to me and he's like, and I've been talking with him the whole time. I was telling him about the roaches. At first, like he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll come up the next day to spray it." And I was like, well, I don't want to deal with that smell too much, but like, I mean, yeah, if you can kind of keep that light and keep it to the bathroom. And this was before I saw in the bedroom. I definitely don't want the spray in the bedroom because I'm going to be sleeping there, the roach spray. And so anyway, it's a bad sign though, that after I leave that, the owner, he accuses me of stealing a towel.
What?
A bathroom towel. He's like, yeah, like, there are only 2 towels here. And I was like, yeah, there are only 2 when I came in. He made a big stink about me leaving the key to the place, on the kitchen table, as opposed to the lockbox, which wasn't the instructions. I grant, but like, I just was kind of like trying to bolt from the place. I didn't read the instructions. I will admit that. But he claimed that he needed to get a professional locksmith to open up his attic, and which I find very dubious because, if you own a place, why would you leave your only key to a stranger? That doesn't even make sense to me, And he also talked about, oh, I'm gonna come spray your place, and he never asked for the key. So he had a key. I'm pretty sure he just was trying to find reasons to basically to take my money. And so yeah, and also too, he got mad that I left the fan on. And yeah, he's like, in the instructions you're supposed to turn off everything. And I was like, okay, well,
You had roaches in your house.
Yeah, exactly.
You kidding?
He's trying to weigh these three grievances. And no, I did not steal the towel. And the fan was on when I came in. And also, too, fan is on anytime you walk into a hotel room. So that's not costing you big money. And if indeed he did have to pay a locksmith, yeah, that costs money. But do you really believe that the owner of the house doesn't have a backup key to his own place? That just seems really stupid. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, we're balancing. He's trying to balance roaches, like on this, like they're the same thing, you know.
Oh God!
And in my mind, roaches are here, and all this other stuff are down here. And I was sure Airbnb would see it that way, but they didn't.
Well, so what you have to realize about Airbnb, though, is
Yeah.
you are not the primary customer. The hosts are. So, like, the way that the business is structured is the hosts are the customer to Airbnb because the competition is not you. It's having a blockage of places versus VRBO, etc.
Yeah.
So they will always favor the host over the client, which is a sort of a flaw in their model, which is why they've been struggling the last couple of years and recently made an announcement into like getting into rental cars, really, and like things like this. This is like their most recent announcement because of that. So like what you're experiencing is a major experience of people with Airbnb.
So what did Airbnb say?
Yeah, and that's what I found out later on. But I've stayed at over 100 Airbnbs. I've had bad situations before where they've actually, maybe it was earlier, maybe it was like years ago when before this model may have changed, but that they did protect me. And so, I thought in my head routinely that, like, again, roaches here, other stuff here.
Yeah.
And as I'm working with the customer service, like, I remember one conversation was like, I sent them pictures and video, and then one of the customer service people that I talked to was like, your pictures and videos show just one roach.
Oh my God.
And I was like, well,
that's brutal.
Actually, they show two, but that's not the point, though. Why?
Yeah.
It's
think about
like,
and this
it's
is what
not
sucks.
just one roach. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if they lose this guy who sounds like a fucking asshole, like the host, like they lose all that business to VRBO where he'd flip. They lose you, it's one house, it's nothing. And that's just a misalignment of incentive, which sucks from the consumer's perspective. Because you need that support as a consumer if you have roaches in your place. So
yeah, well, but I would argue though that, and I try to argue this with them, that like I mean, as you guys know, I talk about it a lot in my travel. Like, I stay at a lot of Airbnbs. I've stayed at over 100 over the last decade. Like,
yeah.
This person's place I stayed at, like, he had like maybe 5 reviews. Like, so, I mean, I hear what you're saying about obviously their motto does lean toward that. So anyway, basically the initial resolution was that they were going to give me a third of my money back, even though I only stayed 2 nights. So basically, for staying a third of the time, 2 of the 6 nights, they were only going to give me a third of my money back. So they were going to give the host like basically like a third money for free, basically, that I didn't stay at, if you guys are following the math, so, that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And that was their resolution until I rinsed them in social media.
Yeah. So what did you post?
Well, I posted it a couple days ago, but I just said, Airbnb sides with roaches.
They probably do.
I love it.
And and I don't want to do. I mean, like, I always like laugh at those stories, like, like, oh, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Like that kind of bullshit kind of stuff. I don't want to be that guy, but like, and that's not how I would phrase this, but it was more like I have a following. Like, this is ridiculous. like I am gonna rinse you, and you'll see, that like people will notice, like if I rinse you with social media. And I had to do it this year to American Airlines, I think, and I I got resolution out of it because I did that. If I didn't do that, then they would have, I mean, that's a whole different story, but like they would have fucked me over. Airbnb, if I didn't do that, they would have fucked me over. I got a call like 30 minutes after I tweeted that out, and they're like, "We're sorry. Here's a full refund, and here's a gift certificate."
But only because you had tweeted it out, basically.
It is only because I tweeted it out, because I went through the normal steps. I did a normal complaint. I told them situation. I sent them video and photo evidence. I talked with them. Like, again, this is the middle of a work week. I talked with them on the phone. Like, honestly, like a couple hours. Like, overall, just like letting them know to different people, different layers of customer support. Obviously included with talking with the host, tried to reason it out with the host at first. And they were going to let the host make a profit off of me with roaches in his place. They were perfectly fine with doing that until I put out a social media post with roaches and photos and videos with roaches. And that's why I'm taking down the post, because like, yeah, sure, Airbnb resolved it. But I had to like go through like hours of unnecessary customer support to get there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, this should have never been an issue. Like, customer service should have been like, okay, there are roaches. Okay. Money back. Yeah. Video and photo evidence of roaches. Okay. Money back.
Yeah.
And that's it. It should have been like that simple,
I've had 2 bad Airbnb cases, and I used to use Airbnb all the time, but the last couple of years I've had 2 cases that were not good. So like generally we won't do an Airbnb unless it's like a big party. Like, like we want like a bachelor party or something like that, where we want to get everyone in the same place. Also because like the hosts are just now like, it's like a full-time job checking out. It's like, will you clean my gutters before you leave? It's just like fucking ridiculous, dude. It's like, do the dishes, have the dishes unloaded. It's like, I don't know, the last couple of years, we've just been like, hotels are kind of great again. Like, just
exactly. Hotels are better.
Yeah, check out. Like, it's easy, it's smooth. The customer service is there. Call up some room service. So unless it's like summer rule where you want to like all cook together and be in a big group, we tend to stay away from it. I think my worst scenario was we had a friend's wedding in Detroit, and so we're all headed to Detroit for my buddy's wedding. He knows I've said this, worst wedding I've ever been to. And it was like in Detroit on a Sunday with daylight savings against us. So Saturday night sucked. But so my best friend and I, we were going to get a hotel. I was like, Detroit, let's get a hotel. And we had some people coming in from Copenhagen. And so we're like, all right, we want to spend quality time with them. Let's get an Airbnb. They don't check in until the day after we arrive. We arrive on Thursday. People from Copenhagen, our friends, get in on Friday. So we check in, and my buddy and I, like, we walk into this Airbnb, and it's like super like beautiful home built like 100 years ago. So it's kind of like a little run down, but kind of beautiful as well. But it's still in Detroit, where like, at that time in Detroit, like it's just like at the peak of its downfall. And you take a right turn and it's just dingy. So, we just had a feeling of the place where when we checked in earlier in the day, we're like, let's just keep our luggage in the car. And because we had a plan of like going out, listen to some jazz, get some cocktails. So we got to downtown, and then, we were coming back in the evening. Luckily our luggage is in our car, and we pull up to the place, and I just see the silhouette of like 2 heads in the master bedroom window, which is on the 2nd story.
Oh, Jesus.
And I like put my hand on my buddy's chest. I'm like, dude, we just stop the car real quick. Do you see that? And they're like, and he's like, oh my God. And then we park kind of like the neighbor's house a little further behind, and they're just standing there. And we're like, and then you're kind of like making it out. Like, it looks like 2 people, but they weren't moving. And then all of a sudden we don't move the car, and then they just like duck. So we're like, oh, what the hell? So we call the cops, Detroit's finest, and
Detroit's finest.
Yeah, OCP.
So they come out, and one of the silhouettes looked like a child. So they come out and they're like, and then we're talking on the phone. We call the host first, and we're actually, and then we're like, hey, this is what's happening. We think we see people in the house. We don't feel comfortable going in. And this is like, late at night. We were out for a while, and so we call, and he's like, call the cops. We call the cops. Cops come out, and it was like no de-escalation, just full like, let's go. Like they're just coming out, guns ablaze. We're like, I was like, hey, slow down. I think there was a kid in there. Like, I don't know. I'm thinking like someone, single parent, like with a child, like doesn't need to be aggressive. Nothing's happened yet. And they're like, and at this point, this is early Airbnb, by the way. The cops had no idea what Airbnb was. So they're like, what's an Airbnb? How does this work? Like,
who are you?
Who do we shoot?
I'm like, okay, this is like,
who do we shoot at Airbnb?
Like, what are you guys doing here? How does this rental work? And so we're explaining it to them, and we're outside, and we were both like, it's late at night. We're just talking to the cops. Turns out there was two people that had planned to rent the place out, and this is what they would do a couple weeks out. But then they would get the code at that time. And this host wasn't changing the code at this era. So then they would scope out the place for a place to crash, kind of like squatters, and then punch in the code if it was late. And because we took our luggage, they just went in. But anyways, Airbnb did resolve the issue and gave us a refund on the place, obviously, and then also I think a bit of a gift card as well. We just ended up going to a hotel, but one too many. And I had one like yours where they completely favored the host. That was more recently in the last 2 years. Yeah. But I've been very on the anti Airbnb train the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done with it. Like, I think maybe the place has phenomenal reviews. Like, I mean, I'll think about it. But I'm looking into the reporter kind of cliche, like building up those Marriott points, or something. Because hey, you know what? Those places, they treat you better in the long run. I travel enough that maybe it'll be worth it. With like 3 nights, so like it'll catch up, right?
Yeah, you gotta get those Hyatt reward points or whatever.
Just anything that like. Where they don't favor the roaches.
Yes, somewhere. Or if you stayed in an Airbnb before and it's nice, then maybe those.
Yeah. I mean, again, I've used it for over a decade. Most of the places have been good. I usually vet places pretty carefully, but I will say that like as I whatever, like over the last like couple of years of traveling so much, and sometimes I do take a chance on a place a little bit because I need to save money on travel, and also I'm a 44-year-old adult, so I need my own bathroom
without roaches, in fact.
Yeah, right. Well, and also without roaches, but that goes without saying. But anyway, though,
let's move on to other combine talk. Yes. Get back to hockey in the world. Who, in your opinion, Sheng, who was the best to talk to at the combine, player or otherwise?
Well, I interviewed Verhoff and Carels and Stenberg and Reid, and I thought that and this is, I guess, makes sense too. I think Stenberg is maybe still working on the English part, right?
Sure.
And so the other 3, the North American defensemen, they were all like really great personalities. Like I learned that Chase Reid's mom was a Laker girl for a year, which hasn't been out there. It was out there that she was like a professional dancer, a competitive dancer, but I guess she moved out to LA and was a Laker girl during it sounds like during like the Kobe Shaq period, maybe.
Oh wow,
so,
cool.
Yeah, so during a cool time in Lakers history too. Carels, I shared that quote that he said that in a general availability about complimentary as a being called a psychopath was a compliment. But I also asked him something similar actually like a couple of days before about like, hey, you're described as having a little asshole in your game, and he's like, yeah, absolutely. And so that's the kind of personality that he brings, and obviously everyone knows his story about the farm, and he's got like a 2,000 acre. His family's got a 2,000 acre like cattle farm, and he's going to be skipping the draft like Brady Martin did because he's got chores on the farm.
Yeah.
And so, he definitely, a kid like that is, grounded in real work, even though obviously his family is well to do, having a 2,000 acre farm, but it's a earned well to do, no doubt about that, right? So he's no, he's not just an heir or whatever. Yeah, and then Verhoff is really, really well spoken too. And so cool thing about Verhoff that's pretty well known is that he was a goalie up to being like 11 years old. And so he talked about that and why he kind of switched to defensive eventually. But so those guys are all good personalities, and even I think Stenberg, take some time with him maybe, but
Sure.
One of the things I learned about Stenberg that was interesting was that he's kind of lived on his own in Gothenburg for the last 3 years, because he's from like a small, like kind of harbor town in Sweden. I forget the name of it, but like about 10,000 people. But Gothenburg, which I think Erik Karlsson is from too, I guess that's the big city close to him. And so he's obviously played in the SHL, and he's lived on his own for the last 3 years, he says. And so that's a pretty mature kid, obviously, to do what he's done in the SHL and live on his own. And I kind of asked him about it. He's like, yeah, he said the word he used was, I'm very in control. I think I used disciplined in the story just because I think it's a clear kind of explanation for what he's talking about. But yeah, so that's kind of his personality seems kind of very much like that, like very, kind of, again, very, very in control. And so, yeah, so they're all kind of different and interesting in their own way.
I found out just from review that Tommy Blyle is from the same town that my mother grew up in Schenectady, New York.
Okay.
Which I had no idea. I've been to Schenectady and been to Scotia, which is around that same area, kind of close to Albany, New York. And I was reading just on his EP Prospects profile, and I was like, Schenectady, New York? Wait a minute. It's a very small town. It used to have like a lot of, I think I had a GE planter there or something like that. But anyway, just a fun little thing that I realized. And also, I hope we draft Tommy Blyle.
Yes, I know. We had a lot of Tommy Blyle talk today.
I hope we do. I've been watching Tommy, and if we don't go Reid, I think he's a good option for a puck moving defenseman that we can get. So a lot of Tommy Blyle talk today.
So, speaking about puck moving defensemen, Sheng, you put out a good piece about what the Sharks can learn from the finalists. And I think that's interesting too, because, obviously there's a lot of great defenders or good defenders on both squads and kind of what it takes. And we talked about this a little bit with Minnesota's defense and how Colorado was able to expose that third line to defense, especially in the last couple of games. So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about that piece and kind of, Keegan, you and I, a little bit about, what can the Sharks learn from the current Stanley Cup finalists, which, by the way, great fucking series.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
God, so fun. This is the most fun I've ever watched. Have had fun watching Carolina, I should say.
That's fair.
Carolina can bore the hell out of me sometimes. I love that squad, but the way they play the game is just sometimes the most boring hockey. They've been so exciting. So
yeah,
go ahead, Keegan.
I was going to say, I was going to say, guys like Taylor Hall and Jordan Staal like stepping up. It feels like it's the 2010s all over again, and it just I mean, they have like a bunch of young guys too, and they're stars or whatever. But yeah, just those guys. I'm like, oh yeah, you're still around the league. You're still doing great.
It's big boy hockey too, right? Like seeing Staal doing what he's doing right now, and as captain and just stepping up. Hey, he's a goal in every game, right?
Yeah. Also, really an awesome part is that because we're Providence Bruins season ticket holders for the AHL, right? I have watched Brandon Bussey like I don't know, 20, 30 times and maybe more in the AHL.
Right.
He was
He was there
played
for a long time, 3 years, right, or something, right? Yeah.
He was here, like he was awesome in the AHL, but like everybody loved him for the P Bruins, and it was always a fun time when Bussy was playing, just because he's a big guy, moves pretty well, and it just like I don't know, people were excited when Bussy was in. And then I was always like, man, they should call him up. Like, what, he never gets a chance, but they had, they've got Swayman, they've had a great goalie depth for a long time
Vladar,
up there.
right? They had Vladar for a while. Right?
Yeah, and then they had Korpisalo, who they got in the trade with Allmark, and
Allmark too.
Yeah, so like they just never got Bussy never got a chance, right?
Yeah.
And then when he got waived and picked up, and I was like, oh, cool, he's got a chance with Carolina here, and now it's like Brandon Bussy, so it's fun to watch because Anna and I just watched him a ton in person, so it's awesome to see him actually doing just this kind of Cinderella story from Brandon Bussy.
Yeah,
I love it so much.
And I'm gonna put this out there too, that I love Tommy Hurdle, and Tommy I hope wins the Stanley Cup. Joel Ward is there too; he's a great guy, but fuck Carter Hart, and I don't need to see Brent Howden with any kind of conspy conversation. So,
and plus, you've already
lay that out there,
yeah. And Vegas has already won, and they're kind of the villains of the NHL, so fuck it, Carolina all the way.
But though,
but to watch Marner win it and just spite Toronto again,
I do like Marner.
I like that
true.
story.
No, that's true. That's true. That's true. And again, I am I love Tommy Hurdle, so so if he wins it, then I definitely will feel good for him. I wrote this article sort of in the perspective of obviously the Sharks they were 4 points out of the playoffs, and so at this step in the Sharks rebuild, they're definitely close, way closer to playoffs than they've been in a while. And so, what can you take from these two finalists here? Mm-hmm. And one thing I'll say, talking with people around the industry and people with teams too, if you're into, like you, Keegan, into the smaller hockey player, they are definitely all rooting for Carolina.
Yeah.
As one scout put it to me yesterday, he said, want Carolina to win just so we can have conversations about smaller players.
100%.
Just so that opens it up,
Yes.
Yeah. Because if Vegas wins, then it's going to be I think one play that I thought about that was just sort of oh, that's going to be used against a smaller defenseman. I think it was in game 1 or 2, and Howden kind of pushes off on Walker, who is a very good defenseman, but on the smaller, I think Carolina has 5 regulars that are listed 6 foot and under, and Vegas has none. Mm-hmm. Even Marner, the smallest player is 6 foot.
Yeah.
And so, that play, Howden, I think, like I said, it was game 1 or 2, pushing off on Walker and scoring a goal. That's going to be used as an example. That's why you don't have smaller defensemen. And so anyway, that's one thing that I wrote about in the takeaways. But yeah, that's one thing too, just talking with people too.
Yeah. It's also the, hopefully they do win so that, like you said, we can start talking about smaller guys. And it also, I've noticed that there's this very specific trend of how we talk about smaller forwards now, where it's are they competitive as shit like Stankoven and Seth Jarvis, or are they not? Or Benson as well as another one.
Benson, right, yeah.
Because if they're not, they're probably not going to make it. But if they are, they could actually make a huge impact. And if they have the physical tools to get underneath players and steal pucks and that kind of thing, then as long as they've got the skill, I think they can play. And if they win the cup, then you won with a 5'8" Logan Stankoven scoring a shit ton of goals. So
and 2 more components to that, though, I think that's important to recognize is, number one, they're surrounded by some big players, and they're surrounded by some heavy players.
Yeah. So I think, and all that too.
Yeah, and they play. And then the number 2 thing about Carolina that I think is really important is they play a very structured game. So also, if you have a smaller player, obviously your reach, coverage on the ice is a little less. Structure, I think, matters more. Also, and then allowing those players to be creative and deploy their skill sets in a more structured game, I think, is a big part of it. Yeah. I think if you play less of a structure or a particular type of structure that doesn't favor the system, then you could be really exposed with a smaller player, and that's the risk. But I think another good example of this postseason run is Montreal. I look how far Montreal did with a bunch of really key players that are undersized relative to the rest of the league. So I do love the underdogs of the smaller players as
It's
well.
also why I think Vigo Bjork is still slotted in the top 10 this draft.
Oh,
I think if it was
Yeah.
2021 or 2022, I think Vigo Bjork is still going in the teens, kind of like Benson did in his draft year. Just because.
Or the other one from last year or 2 years ago, Hellenius, right? That dropped a little bit, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So
great guy, great player.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think if we relate to the Sharks, right? Like, I think some people kind of roll out Willie Macklin, I think a little too quickly just because of his size. And I think he's a very, very competitive player, though. And so I think that on a better team, that might bear itself out. And so you could see maybe a little bit of, not that he has things to iron out in his game, no doubt. I'm not trying to say he's like a perfect player, but I do see that kind of that will, that compete there, though, that I can see transferring itself to a playoff caliber team.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little Sharks related. Other things I wrote about in this article, though, is, love it or hate it about Vegas, but they are ruthless in their decision making, and some things I don't love, obviously, that I mentioned, like Carter Hart, like acquiring him and stuff like that. But you see what they've done to their coaches, right? Hey, it's worked, right? So Gallant, DeBoer, Cassidy, all can within 3 seasons of a conference finals or better year. And Gallant made it to a Stanley Cup final. Bruce Cassidy won a Stanley Cup. Gassed within 3 years of that, right? Also, too, like, one of the I mentioned the size thing, but you see on Vegas and Carolina, we talked about this with Florida too, and that there is maybe no clear number one kingpin defenseman. You can argue that Shea Theodore is playing about 25 minutes a night, and actually if you look at historically his career, he's been a little more of a 23, like, maybe more of a number 2 defenseman. Even in past playoffs, he's been kind of around that number. And the last time they won a Stanley Cup, they had Peter Angela as their clear number 1. But, Theodore might be kind of taking that mantle for Vegas, and he's a very, very talented defenseman. But, like, still, though, they don't have that Makar, Quinn Hughes kind of kingpin guy. And so, yeah, so they're just different ways to kind of go about it. If even if Chase Reid or Carls, they don't become Kale Makar, right? If they're top 20 defensemen, if they're Jake Sanderson, if they're in that conversation, like, you can still do a lot with that if you build adequately around them. And so that's either argument for spending a pick on a defenseman or against it. Either or. You can look at it either way. And then also, too, the other thing I wrote about is the goaltending aspect. And yes, Carter Hart, but basically both teams aren't spending a ton on their goaltending. Carolina being the biggest example of that, because between Anderson and Bussey, that's $4.25 million AAV. Hart and Adin Hill, and a lot of it is Adin Hill because they signed Adin Hill to a $6 million contract, but even that's like mid-range. I think they're between those two, that's $8 million. So the way the Sharks are modeled, it's set up that I think they want Askarov to be making Shesterkin money to be that good. But and obviously you can win with that. Vasilevsky is a recent example of that, and Bobrovsky also taking a big chunk of Florida's cap, but you don't need that either. And anyway, the favorite thing, and this is a very Vegas thing, and it was kind of funny that this article came out actually the day after. This is a football thing, but the LA Rams, they're known for this meme. And the meme is "fuck them picks," and because the Rams, like, they trade their picks, they just, like, they're always trying to win. And so the day after this article came out, the Rams had just traded, like, the equivalent of I think 3 or 4 first round picks, including 2024 player who was a first round pick, to the Cleveland Browns for Myles Garrett, who is basically I mean he's like trading. It's like trading everything for Cale Makar. Myles Garrett is the best defensive player in the NFL, and so that's sort of been the Rams strategy. And obviously the Golden Knights are the NHL version of it, because I was looking at it. Vegas has traded 9 of their 11 first-round picks, and they have also traded 2026 and 27 first. And for some players, including, this is not the entire list, but Pacioretty, Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, Hannafin, Tomas Hertl, Rasmus Anderson. Oh, Barbashev's another one. They traded Zach Dean away for him, a former first-round pick. And even the one that, like you mentioned, Zuber, didn't quite work out, Pacioretty. Pacioretty had a number of really good seasons with them and conference finals with them, right? And all these other guys I mentioned, Stone, Hannafin, Hertl, Anderson, Eichel, Barbashev, they're on this team. And so Mike Grier is going to come to that point where, maybe it's going to be Eklund, maybe it's going to be a future first that, that they haven't picked yet. Maybe it'll even be a Will Smith, but there's going to be some unpopular moves that will be made to get the team to the next place. And so I think that even if you don't like everything that Vegas has done and other things, right? Obviously, we can talk about how, they're blocking Bruce Cassidy from interviewing and stuff like that, but which is really weird to me. But though that it does work though. Like it or not, it does work. I mean, right? So three finals appearances in 9 years. Everyone keeps talking. It's like the Jesse Pinkman meme, right? You can't keep getting away with it.
You can't keep getting away with it. But they do.
They do, right? At some point, you figure that they're going to have to pay the piper. They have no, they don't have a lot of prospects coming through. Obviously, the one that they do have come through, Dorofeyev, is like a 35 goal scorer, right? It's kind of crazy, right? But they trade these guys at high value too. Like the Stone one is a classic one because I remember how much you guys remember this. That Brandstrom was built the fuck up. People were like, "Oh, this guy is going to be this and that."
Yep. And
that's one that I will say that I watched Brandstrom. This is when I was covering Vegas, and I was like, I don't think he's
gonna do
he's
it.
small. Yeah. And it's not just about being small, but just I didn't think he was that remarkable. And they traded that guy at the height of his value, and they got Mark Stone, who is
Mark Stone.
Who's Mark Stone?
He's Igor
right?
Chernyshov. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. A rich man's Igor Chernyshov. Yeah. And even Zach Dean, right, who was a late first round pick, right? They converted that to Barbashev, who is a consistent, not a first-line player, but is a guy who can play in your first line and be a complimentary player, can play up and down your lineup. They obviously traded David Edstrom to the Sharks for Tomas Hertl, who has struggled, but obviously has, with a little chat with Pav, has produced quite a bit since then. I mean, it works. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So,
no, I hate it though that it works, but it does. I do think eventually, if they don't win this cup, I mean, they still have Marner, they still got Eichel, they're still gonna have a great team. Rasmus Anderson is kind of weird because he hasn't been great, and then they spent a lot to get him. And are they gonna re-sign him, or are they gonna let him walk after spending White Cloud and a first, right, to get him?
Right.
So we'll see. That might bite them in the ass if they do sign him, or they might bite them in the ass if they don't. But either way, go Carolina, because fuck that. Also, my sister lives in Carolina or North Carolina, and I'm a secret Carolina fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I want Carolina to win it.
All right, let's move on. We only got a couple more minutes left with Z here. He's got to leave here soon. So, Celebrity extension talks? Question mark? How are we doing with that?
I got a little pushback on that, and I'm not sure about it yet, so that's why I haven't really put that out there, like, in terms of the pushback I got. So maybe it hasn't started to be, I'm still kind of following up on that, so it wouldn't surprise, anyway, even if it hasn't started, it will start, and don't worry, Macklin's going to be here, like, as long as he wants to be, again, it's Macklin's world. We're just living in it. So I do believe fully that he will be the captain. I think Emily Kaplan put out all but guaranteed, and I did follow up on that, and I have the same sort of intelligence or the same word. So that's going to happen. Extension talks, sort of the talk at the combine that I did mention in an article I wrote, though, is sort of like what they could be looking at, and I heard 5 for 75 was one that someone told me, and like that's a possible one, and so it's kind of like we'll see. Oh, one interesting thing I will say about this though is that so Macklin is still, he doesn't turn 20 till June, like late June, I think. And so I wonder if they're going to name Macklin captain early, so he can have the honor. I don't know if he cares personally, but if to be named a captain while he's still a teenager, and that sounds like, this sounds like really kind of like, they don't care about that kind of stuff. But I looked at the timeline for Sidney Crosby, and it's actually really interesting. Crosby was named captain of the Penguins at 19 after the season was over. I think it was May 31st. And 2 months later, Sidney got, or basically a month later, Sid got his extension on like July 3rd or whenever, like, within days of being eligible for it. He got his first $8.7 million extension, And so I wonder if they're going to replicate that. Because Macklin's going to be the captain next year. I mean, he is. He just is going to be. And so why not? Why not give him that same honor that Sid had of being named captain as a 19-year-old? Because if they had waited for training camp for Sid, he would have been 20, I think. I think Sid's birthday is like in August or something like that, right? And so I wonder if that was, I don't know if the Penguins prepared it that way to do that. But I don't know if the Sharks are aware of that or have planning for that. This is me kind of speculating. But Sid's birthday is on August 7th. So, but it would kind of make sense though if as much as these guys, Crosby and Celebrini, have been kind of tied together, their names, that it would be kind of perfect. That Macklin gets that captaincy a little bit early.
Yeah.
So
do it now. Give us something to talk about.
Yeah, why not, right? So
So on that note about Celebrini, we have a final MVP vote where Kucherov won the league MVP
by
just a
10
hair.
points. Isn't that crazy?
By a hair.
That's like a first place vote and I think a fifth place vote at 11 points. Yeah.
So Sheng, you get to explain to us why it's all your fault that Celebrini didn't win the MVP. And why everybody should be really mad at you, because clearly Celebrini at fourth behind by 800 points is all Sheng's fault.
I think it was like 600 points or something like that.
But anyway, talk about the vote a little bit, Sheng.
Well, Keegan, I appreciate you tweeting that out there and backing me up a little bit because, yes, my vote was not worth 600 points. So I would not have got Macklin into even the top four with my vote. But I think it is just worth noting. It is also worth noting, too, that Macklin finished. We don't know it because the player vote is not revealed, so we don't know where Macklin finished in the Lindsay. I think it just was impressive that he was a finalist, really. But McDavid won that. Kucherov won the Hart. I voted for McDavid, number 1, and I voted Macklin, number 2. So, yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about it, so we don't need to repeat too much on it. But I will just say with McDavid, why I voted McDavid number 1. I think he did a lot of things that Macklin did that in terms of he had 48% of his team's offense. Macklin had like 46, right, or something like 46.9. And Connor, that team, that Oilers team would not have made the playoffs if Connor missed the last 20 games of the season that Draisaitl was not part of, and Hyman missed a big part of. Bouchard was still around, but so that's basically what it came down to for me.
Yeah, fair. Absolutely fair.
Kucherov was my vote at some point for the Hart. I think, like, I don't get a vote, to be clear, but my pick was Kucherov at some point. I think towards the end of the year, I would have gone with McDavid, but there was a point when Kucherov was just the best player in the world, I think. But
I think there's a McDavid fatigue, honestly, and I talked about this maybe a few episodes ago. I think it was after Zubair and I watched McDavid drop 5 points on the Sharks end of the season head-to-head against Celebrini. And I think there's a little bit of that fatigue because he's won it so much. He's won 5 Lindsays, which ties Wayne Gretzky, but he is still just simply the best player in the world. I mean, that's just cut and dry.
Yeah.
For sure.
That was incredible. I think there is someone I talked to on the Edmonton camp that has been covering them for a long time after that game against the Sharks, which was a crucial game for the Sharks at that stage.
For both teams.
For both teams. And again, no Hyman, no Draisaitl. And what we saw on McDavid was just absolutely bonkers. He carried the team literally on his back and just dummied the Sharks. and
that great photo that Dean Tate took of McDavid putting his head on Macklin's head. Get away from me. Stop putting your stick between my legs.
Yeah. It was just incredible. It was just for hockey, that was just so fun to watch. So fair point for your vote. All right, boys, I got to hop off, but I'm excited to hear the rest of this conversation. Sorry I can't be a part of it, but I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah.
And, all right.
We got the Joshua Ravensbergen coming up later as well.
Yeah. See you, Z.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
See ya.
And now there were 2. Well, not yet. Now there were 2. There we go. Okay. All right. We've gone from 4 down to 2 now.
Yeah.
Only a couple more topics left for today, actually. Always because everybody wants to know how we're going to improve the blue line. That is the number one topic. Once we finally improve the blue line, I think we don't have anything else to talk about on this show. Once the blue line is
the
solid,
Sharks will have won the Stanley Cup at that point.
Yeah. So it kind of came out, trickled out this week that Ferraro is likely gone. At least it is likely that he's not going to be re-signing with the Sharks, or at least he's going to test the market, see what's out there. Was this kind of do you think about term? Because I heard that too.
Yeah,
or read that.
This is something I picked up at the Combine, and I've talked about this in previous articles that Mario wants deservedly, I think, more term. I think, and I think he'll get it, right? Of course, it's not cut and dry that he's gone. Sure. I don't think anyone said adios, Mario, whatever, right? But if he wants term and the Sharks will not give it, Mike Grier said in his exit interview that, hey, we're going to let him test the market, and nothing has changed on that. They're going to let him hit July 1st. And if teams surprise and if there's collusion and they only offer him Mario Ferraro 2 years, which I don't think is going to happen, then okay, maybe he'll come back to the Sharks. But that's very, very unlikely. Mario is 27. It is a seller's market on defense, obviously, the seller being Mario and his services. He is obviously a great room guy. We know he's not a perfect defenseman, and I do understand why the Sharks would move on from him, because I don't know this for a fact, but if the Sharks are asking themselves, when we are a Stanley Cup contender, when we are in the Stanley Cup final 3 to 5 years from now, is Mario Ferraro on this defense?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it's a cut and dry no, because I can see Mario Ferraro being on a Stanley Cup team, but maybe that's the Sharks' answer is we don't think so. And a lot of that could be, Mike does like a little more size on the blue line, so that this would be my guess, especially maybe on the defensive side, you want a little more size. Mm-hmm. If the guy is pushing more offense, he's more of a power play guy, maybe you don't need that size as much, but if you're going to be a stay-at-home guy, that maybe that's the preference. I don't know this for a fact. Never have asked Mike specifically that, and he's not going to criticize his players that way. But if you kind of see what Mike trends toward, that does kind of make sense. Mm-hmm. That might be kind of what they're thinking with Ferraro. So you understand it, but obviously it's unfortunate because Mario has been a great, no one would disagree with this, Shark side. He's been a great soldier in a lot of awful years.
Blocked a
that
lot
he
of
did not
pucks.
deserve. He did not deserve. Mario Ferraro is that meme that you see of the guy like the Korean War in the background and shell shocked soldier face.
Yeah,
Right?
Blocked a lot of pucks, played a lot of horrible minutes.
Yeah. He's that meme, that living meme.
Yeah.
I've said it before. I would have loved to have seen Mario in the prime of the Sharks.
Yeah.
And I think he could have been a Justin Braun. He could have been a Brendan Dillon.
Yeah.
In terms of just impact and popularity and all that kind of stuff, right? He deserves that as like a person, as a player. But it just was. You don't pick the team that drafts you. You don't pick the era that you get drafted in, and that's just kind of how it worked out for him. And so I hope that he's able to find more success elsewhere. But yeah, I'm not saying like he's gone, like there's no chance. But again, you got to look at it realistically. Like he is of a good age. He has never had a big contract. He's got a family to take care of. And the defensive market, he's likely to get a good contract that the Sharks will not match.
I think also right? just getting somebody new for those 20 to 23 minutes is going to be interesting, right? Like you hope that it's a player that's like better, but it just different, right? Like this is kind of how the defense has been ran for so many years now. I want to see something new, and it gives a chance for guys like Cagnoni or Polkamp, somebody to come in. We'll see, right? They could sign 6 guys in the offseason, and then there isn't. But at the same time, I think, you kind of, now it's kind of like a blank slate, right? We've got Orlov and Dickinson is pretty much it, and then we have maybe Mukhamadullin.
RFA,
So let's talk about the other free agents that are kind of leaving the Sharks or staying with the Sharks, and Desharnais, Reaves, and Kurashev.
Yeah, well, I don't subscribe to what you mentioned, though, about like it just opens the door for these 2 smallish defensemen. I, again, seriously doubt both will break camp.
I didn't think. I don't think both will. I think maybe one, possibly.
But they're gonna fill those spots though, because they have again 2 signed defensemen. So yeah, you mentioned Desharnais, Reaves, and Kurashev, and then we'll talk after that about maybe some defensive options that they can acquire. That things are out there. But so Desharnais, I suspect they will sign him because he's going to be cheaper than he should be cheaper than a Ferraro, and he's bigger. And he has that specific PK that Ferraro also has too. But again, I think it's going to be less term and less cost with a Desharnais. And you don't lose, you don't lose in a room. Desharnais, Vinny's great in a room too, so you don't lose in that area. And with the Reaves, though, I do suspect, and again, these are educated guesses, but still guesses. I would not rule him out from coming back, but I think that they might be full up on forward, and signing Dellandrea might be one of those moves that might be, well, what else is left there, right? Up front, you have Dellandrea as your potential 13th, 14th forward. You have Gaudreau right there still too, and you have improvement from Chernyshov and guys like that you're hoping for, right? And you do want to maybe have a little space just in case for a Musty, a Beasted to impress, right?
And Stenberg, if they choose Stenberg.
Sure, and the Stenberg too, right? And you're good enough at forward that like the bar is high. You're setting the bar high for a Musty to take a job, for a Stenberg to take a job, which you like as a team. And so that may or may not include Reaves, and that doesn't take away from his like impact in the room, and that he's still a valid forechecker, right? He still moves pretty well, and he does still like kind of intimidate out there, right? Even if he's not the fighter he was a decade ago. But yeah, I at the end of the season, I thought, oh, maybe he'll come back, and now I'm kind of more like, I think this may not happen. Just may not be a fit there. So
well, he's off interviewing players, right, in the Stanley Cup Finals. So he's got a So he's got a career in media if he just wants
he has a second
out.
career lined up for sure.
He really does. I mean, people like talking with him, and he likes talking. So I think that's where the next step is for him. But who knows? Maybe he still wants to play. And
well, he wants to play. He wants to get to. He's 38 games short of 1,000, and that's been
right.
like a stated goal of his.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not so sure.
Or if they
Kurashev. Oh, go ahead.
Or if they are more in an agreement of like this year he stayed up with the Sharks the entire year, but maybe if they're more in a hey, sometimes you're gonna not like you're gonna get waived, you're gonna go down kind of thing. Like maybe if they're more in that kind of agreement. You know?
Yeah, that's going to be kind of tough, though, because to be exposed like that all the time, and the team might actually pick him up because he's the kind of guy you can see in the playoffs, right? Like Delorier got acquired by the Hurricanes, right? I think during the deadline. A guy like that's like, hey, we have an extra spot. Let's just have this guy. Or I'm sorry, in the playoff or after the deadline, you know, I think you have unlimited spots, right? Roster. So like, let's just get this guy in, and just so we have that component, you know, like around playoff time, just in case. We may not play him, but like just have him around, right?
Yeah.
So that could be kind of tough. But it might be a kind of valid path that's open though, where like we have injuries, if we have this or that, then you know you're going to be our first call up. But I don't know. Yeah. Or not, I'm sorry, not first call up, but like, you know, like it'll be a little bit of a risk there. You know what I mean? But I think though, the question is more roster spots, right? Like, I guess we'll have to do that later. We'll see what they do July 1st, but we're going to have to really count roster spots. You know?
They're pretty full.
And yeah, especially up front, right? If Revo could play defense, there's opportunity there. but it's a little too late for him to do that. So,
and then what about Kurashev, Regenda, Leddy, and Klingberg?
Oh well, those guys. I mean, like I assume that Leddy and Klingberg are gone. I could be wrong. I haven't really checked in on those two, but I just sort of assumed that. And these are more things I'll check closer to July 1st. Regenda, I sort of wonder about, because that could be another question mark too in terms of, you know, Regenda or Reaves for a roster spot. And yeah, you know, maybe Regenda, as long as he gets a guaranteed contract, maybe he's okay with kind of the risk of being waived, because maybe he'll get picked up or maybe he won't, you know? And then obviously Regenda offers like kind of a different skill set than Reaves. Obviously, not the fighting, not the intimidation, not the forechecking. He doesn't skate as well as Reaves, but you know, there's the power play. He can help you on a power play. He is big. He plays big too, and so you can use that on your fourth line. So yeah, so maybe there's something there. Oh, Kurashev. The reason why I want to bring him up is there was a rumor that I guess he had signed with a Swiss team like Lugano, who I guess he used to play with maybe in Switzerland. Like if it doesn't work on NHL, he has a pre-arranged deal to go back to Lugano. And I understand that that's not true, that there's no kind of pre-arranged deal.
Yeah.
I assume Kurashev wants a player next year. I don't know if he'll be with the Sharks, because obviously we saw at the end of the season they weren't using him at all.
Sure.
But yeah, that's what I understand. That there's no like pre-arranged deal though. So
yeah, interesting.
Well, what's on that on that front? Yeah.
The other piece of how do we improve this blue line is through trade. And there's been just a litany of how do we get this defenseman to the Sharks. I want to start with Darnell Nurse, because it was reported, I think, yesterday that Nurse has requested a trade or is open to a trade, or however the language was used by Elliot Friedman. It seems like everybody's requesting a trade these days, but is Darnell Nurse an option for the Sharks? So we got to really ponder here, because
hopefully Zach Werenski requests a trade.
Yeah, hopefully.
I think Elliot was speculating that, like, all Team USA, right?
Darnell Nurse. I'm not entirely convinced. He's 31. He has 4 years left on a $9.25 million contract. I think with retention, maybe that makes sense, but I'm always a little bit hesitant of guys like him and Rielly, and ones where they're on really competitive teams and the team doesn't want them anymore. Well, I mean, I get it, like for a low value pickup, but I don't know. Like, I worry about them being an actual pillar for the Sharks. Maybe it makes sense at like $6-7 million, but not 9.25. But
Yeah, it definitely doesn't make sense for 9.25, but like you mentioned, like if Edmonton were to retain a little bit, and from the Sharks' perspective, like yeah, you of course, I'm always suspicious I always mention this when a team wants to trade a young defenseman like a Braden Schneider or
true.
somebody like that, like why? Or
Mhm.
a Simon Nemec, like why? Why? Like what are the red flags? Why do you want to move this guy? So the red flags are more obvious for Rielly or a Nurse,
Yep.
but it's the same kind of like why. But for the Sharks, though, if the price is right, that's where it is. If the price is right, it's an upgrade,
Yeah.
right? Right. And like the problem with Nemec and Schneider is they're young and they're cheap, so the price is probably not going to be like low.
Mhm.
But for a Nurse or a Rielly, maybe it's gonna be reasonable, and so I can see it though. I don't know if the Sharks. The report is that there's like 3 to 5 teams that he's willing to go to. I don't know if the Sharks are one of those 3 to 5. I think I read Pittsburgh and LA
Interesting.
are among those teams. I would think though that San Jose, even if they're not like top of the list, like if like you're Edmonton and you come to Nurse and you say, hey, the best deal we have is with San Jose. Like San Jose is not a kind of a Chernobyl kind of NHL destination anymore. They aren't.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Right? And so, like, even if they're not like top of mind, because I don't know why LA is ahead of San Jose, honestly, but I mean, besides location, but in terms of like competitiveness, but anyway, though, yeah, that I think San Jose wants to be in on a Nurse or a Rielly, and I've probably understood at the combine that San Jose has inquired about Rielly. This is speculative, but I do wonder if that's going to be also about price too. Trade cost, I mean, because Rielly's contract is a little more reasonable than Nurse's. It's they're about similar age. It's also long too, but Rielly's hit is 7.5, I think.
Yep.
So that kind of is a little more sensible. Maybe Toronto gets away with it without retention. That's what I had heard that they want, that they suspect. That they can do, and that they seem to think they can get positive value out of Rielly. I'm not sure how much. Someone told me like a price, and I was like, that's too high. I wouldn't give that for Rielly, but I guess I'll put what someone told me, but this is not like this is speculative. This is what's someone inside speculated to me, but just pure speculation. I want to make sure that's clear. This is not an actual offer that's out there, but someone speculated that Rielly could get Toronto a second round pick, which is like, I don't know. 7.5 million AAV until 2030. He's 32. He's not as good as he used to be.
Yeah.
But the Sharks desperately need someone to run their power play and someone who wants to come there, or come here, right? Unlike Dougie Hamilton. So I don't know. I don't see. I could see that that's what Toronto wants, and the Sharks are like, no.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a sticking point, and they need to just find a common ground, to make a deal like that work. So
there's 2 other names as well on trade list because Vancouver might be headed towards a rebuild.
They are. Yeah, that's one thing that I did gather from the combine, and I think that they may have talked about it in the press conferences introducing Ryan Johnson and the Sedins, right? I didn't watch that press conference. Did you watch the press conferences?
I did not. Hronek is I like him, but not as much as Werenski, so it's not like I'm gonna.
Werenski was worth watching.
Yeah, I don't got the popcorn ready. Like, come on,
watching the faces of death, right?
Yeah. No, I did not watch it. But So I mean, Hronek would be an excellent add-in as well.
Yeah, but he's going to be expensive. He's the kind of guy, like his contract. I mean, he's 28.
Yep.
So he's younger than Nurse and Rielly. He's more productive than both of them right now. Like he's in the prime right now, whereas Nurse and Rielly, slipping. And 7.25 million AAV until 2032.
Mhm.
So that's a great cost, at least the first few years of that.
Mhm.
And so he's going to be a guy that's going to be very, very expensive, because if he's on the market, if he wants to leave Vancouver, and Vancouver maybe don't want to keep him even in a rebuild, because you do need. It's nice to have a good player to help out your team, a leader if he wants to be around for that. But he costs the Canucks, like, I think a first and a second back in the day with Detroit, something like that.
Yeah.
And he's going to be more expensive than that, because again, he's a arguable number 2 defenseman that is on a reasonable contract. He's an all-around guy. He's a two-way guy, so he's not like just defensive. He's not just offensive, right? So he's not going to come cheap. The one guy who I think though could be available and who could come at a more reasonable cost, and maybe you like him more than a Nurse or a Rielly, is a Marcus Pettersson.
Mhm.
And I understand that when Pettersson got traded to the Canucks last calendar year, and now I think he regrets it, but that's when the thought was that the Penguins were headed to a rebuild and they were struggling, and Vancouver was willing to trade a first round pick, I think, for Pettersson. I think they're trying to keep Quinn Hughes, and I don't know if they had resolved. I don't know if they even traded JT Miller yet. But anyway, they were still trying to make that work, right? In Vancouver last season. And anyway, Vancouver did not turn out to be a more competitive situation. That's the Arrested Development. I think I made a terrible mistake, and they were the worst team in the league last year.
Mhm.
So he's a guy that I would like highly suspect would be very available and might come at a decent cost. 5.5 million AAV until 2031. So he's not that bad. He's 30. He's left-handed. Obviously a little more on the stay-at-home side, but he can move a puck reasonably well. And so I think that could be a good target for the Sharks right there, where he'll have some suitors for him because his AAV isn't too high, but he's not going to have like Hronek. You're going to be in a bidding war. Like, that's going to be like a poor man's version of bidding for Quinn Hughes. Obviously, he's not Quinn Hughes, but like
Yeah. I kind of see it like
so.
Keandre Miller last year. I don't remember. I think he was traded for a first, and I got to look it up.
I think though Hronek is more highly regarded than Miller was. Miller obviously has taken up big minutes for Carolina, and he's
Sure.
shown that maybe teams should have invested more in, or tried to pony up for him, right?
Yeah,
But
he's also a
like,
little younger too.
well, you're right.
25,
He does
24.
have that on his side. He is a little younger
He
than
was first, second, and Scott Morrow, who's like a
okay.
Quinta, or like a like I would say a lesser Cagnoni prospect. So,
Is Scott Morrow was a first round pick? Well, maybe at this point he's lesser.
yeah,
than
he's now
yeah,
23.
Okay, fair.
And he's kind of not broken in yet. So
yeah, right. He hasn't. But still,
he was
that's
a second round
that's a
pick
pretty
in
cost
in 2021.
2021. Okay, but that's still a pretty good.
I would
cost
suspect it's going to be like first, second, 2 prospects, something like that.
or like a better prospect than Morrow, maybe.
Yeah.
That's a way to kind of. He's more valuable than Miller at the same time of trade, I think. But
if I was the Sharks, I'd pony it up. I had that in my article that I wrote a couple months ago for Hronek. Like, I'd go first, second, Musty Mugamadulin and just try and get that guy.
I'm not against that. Like the first this year, the number 20, right? A second, they don't have any seconds now. Oh no, they have a Colorado second, so they could trade that. Or they can trade one. Actually, you probably want to trade a Colorado one because that's a late one, right? If that's acceptable, and I think I do that. Even like, man, this is expensive, but like, maybe you want to keep Luka Modulin because you need a little, you still need more defensemen than just Hronek.
Yeah.
Like, man, like Beasted, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
But it is a little more quantity though than like, you're not trading any like grade A asset for Hronek in that, right? You're trading a late-ish first, a very good prospect in Musty, a very good prospect in Beasted, but this isn't like, right? This isn't Misa, right? Like those kind of, we can talk about that in a little bit too, right? But like, Yeah, it's kind of excess, right? Musty is excess. Beasted is arguably excess with Macklin and Misa and Wenberg and Ostapchuk already there, right? So
yeah, you
get something back from Vancouver too, besides Hronek too. So yeah.
Hronek has to waive too. They all have no movement clause. So does Marcus Pettersson as well. They
Right.
both have
I'm
no
just saying
moves.
Pettersson is motivated to move, I think.
Yeah.
That's what I understand. But all right, that's what I think. I don't know that for sure, but yeah, Hronek, let's see what his protections are.
I think they're both no moves. So
Yeah, it's not a list.
No, they get a list in 2028,
Oh yeah, you're
2029.
right. Yeah. They're both no moves, huh? I see. Okay.
But I mean, if Meiker is going aggressive this summer, hopefully he does, because I think this is the summer to try and get somebody on this defense. Like, we got Orlov last year, which has helped.
But he's a bridge guy, though.
He's bridge, yeah. He's older.
Yeah.
We need somebody who's going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years to really solidify and get the defense group growing. And we'll see.
Hronek makes a lot of sense. He has cost certainty.
Yep.
He is young. He's young enough, right? And yeah, I get like people say, oh, 28's a little old. But you're not trading the number 2 pick. We're not talking about trading Misa or Dickinson or a number 2 pick for like an Adam Fox who's the same age. We're talking about lower end assets that help your team now, and that Hronek can, probably still be effective 5 years from now when his contract, you're hoping that he's still effective.
He scored 50 points this year on a shit Vancouver team.
Right. And if he is your top defenseman next year, he is obviously not a number 1 defenseman, but like he's going to do a better job of impersonating that than Mario Ferraro or Orlov or Jake Wallman.
And say you grab Chase Reid and you just get Hronek in there for now until Reid starts to ready.
Right.
And then Hronek slides down to your second pair 2, 3, 4 years from now if Reid starts to become what San Jose hopes he does if they do draft him. So, yeah, I mean, there's ways to do this, and it's going to be interesting to see just how the Sharks actually do rebuild and if they can attract a big name. They have so much money, and it's so much money in cap space the next couple of years before the big extensions come in.
Well, they have 1 year of it because Macklin's extension will kick in after this coming year, so.
Yeah, but even then, even with
they'll still have money.
They'll still have money.
Still have money
for sure.
Still have money. Yeah.
Anyway, last thing I wanted to mention was for the fun of it. Dylan Larkin requested a trade, and before it came out, like he's interested in, I think it's like Minnesota, Vegas, and Florida or something like that. Like,
yeah, that was his top 3 teams. I guess he's willing to open it up. But
that. It was like, oh, I wonder about San Jose. And this just continues the long line of every single player that is available or could be available. One of the national media guys going, I wonder about San Jose. And then it feels like that always happens. And like, why? Is it just because San Jose is the hot topic, the fun place to go?
I think so because Elliott said that about Larkin, and for a lot of reasons that doesn't seem to make sense because obviously Larkin's a good player, but the cost of, people
we're not dying
about
for centers.
Exactly, right, yeah. And then, Jeff Merrick, who I like, but, I think he mentioned like, maybe the Sharks will trade Nurse or Graf for Nurse, and like, why would the Sharks do that, right? And that sounds like that's like wishful thinking from Edmonton's side. Say like, hey, we'd love to have of course you would love to have Graf for a guy that has requested a trade and that you're trying to get off of your roster, but like and that's part of the push pull, or the negotiating. I'm sure that when the Sharks were trying to trade Erik Karlsson, I'm sure that things were floated out. I got to look back on it, but I'm sure there are things floated out there like, oh yeah, the Sharks would love like, this or that for Erik Karlsson, but like, you're not going to get that. Or the Sharks did get a nice asset for Erik, but it included taking on 3 contracts, right? It was Hoffman, it was Granlund, and it was somebody else I forget, right? So,
Jan Ruda.
So,
Jan Ruda, I guess, but
yeah, Jan Ruda, exactly, Jan Ruda. So, like, anyway, though, So I think there is sort of a. it's fine to speculate, and San Jose does have a lot of cap space. Like, I think on the surface, I can see why people speculate that, but there is sort of I think there is a misunderstanding of like kind of like of San Jose and and what they would give up for these improvements, So I guess is the way to put it. So
yeah, especially at center, which is like our best depth right now.
right. And like Graf is a good. I mean, I'm not saying Graf is untouchable, but like you're trading Graf for like a player that's like maybe younger who is not being chased out of town.
Yeah, doesn't make $9 million.
If Vancouver demanded Graf or Hronek, right, as part of that trade at least, right, not 1-for-1, then that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, because Hronek's going to have, again, no shortage of suitors. And if you're the Sharks, you're taking from a strength up front to, whatever, right? But like for Nurse, that's like wishful thinking I always, I'd be shocked. You can come back to me, call me wrong, but I'd be shocked if the Sharks were
unless we
willing
can
to do
get Larkin for the Stevie Y special where it's, they give us Jake Walman in a second for free. We get trade Larkin for Philip Bistad and a 4th-round pick. Boom.
Let's not be greedy, right? If Stevie attaches just a 7th with Larkin, I would take Larkin for free. So.
Yeah. Stevie Y special Mike Grier apparently's got his number. I don't know. That was a hell of a trade. Oh man, it's gonna be a fun off season. There's just so much intrigue.
There is.
And the Sharks are better. I'm super excited about the offseason.
Yeah.
All right. Our final topic of the day, the PWHL, the San Jose PWHL team. Sheng.
Yeah. They've added their first players. One thing I wonder about looking at it is that they've added a goalie, Corinne Schroeder, who's been pretty good historically. I think she was like mid-range in save percentage last year, and so I think that's going to be it sounds like a good addition for them, because in the expansion draft, the current teams, they protected their starters, and so she might have been the best available goalie out there to them.
Cool.
So I do wonder where they're going to get their scoring from, though, because they signed a Kristen O'Neill, and she was their. It's called let me use the right terminology here. It's a EFO, expansion foundational offer. It was just basically kind of like the one player that they can give like this elevated offer to that was available out there. And O'Neill looks like more of a defensive type, right? Like, she scored like 5 goals in, I think, is it 4 or 5 goals in 27 games last year? And so Troy Ryan, the PWHL GM, he says that he believes that there's more offense from Kristen, and so you better hope so, because like they've signed other players, and I'm not sure where the scoring is coming from, but between a good goalie and a Corinne Schroeder, and also the first defender that they signed, Rory Aguilde. I may be pronouncing the names wrong, so I got to work on that. So apologize for that. But she was 20 minutes defender for, I think it was Ottawa last year, like a top 4, and so that's a good signing. So maybe that's kind of their strategy, that they're going to try to kind of build a more defensive squad and kind of eke out those wins. So we'll see. But anyway, it is exciting that they've signed their first 6 or 7 players here. And just on the move to eventually getting a team name too, so we can stop calling them PWHL San Jose.
Yeah, and apparently Hammerheads is still on the short list of names. Apparently, maybe.
Which one?
Hammerheads, apparently. I mean,
I don't know. I haven't checked up on that, so I will be going to the PWHL draft in Detroit. That is on the 17th. And I will be staying at a hotel
without roaches.
I will not. Well, I hopefully, but will not be at a B&B.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, though, yeah. So still don't know where PWHL San Jose is drafting.
Yeah.
In the draft, which is that's like 4 days from now, 5 days from now.
We'll figure it
So
out.
yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out. So yeah, but
all right.
yeah, basically there's a lot going on there, though. Yeah, so
Very cool. I'm excited to
Yeah.
watch some PWHL hockey now that we got a team to follow and everything. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all for listening. If you have not already, consider joining our YouTube membership. You get access to our Discord, all sorts of early access articles and videos and prospect clips and all sorts of fun exclusive content, and also just a really good growing community of Sharks fans who are talking all the time about your favorite team. So consider joining the YouTube membership, get access to our Discord, and talk with Sheng and I behind the scenes. It's my promo for today, but it's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun growing that. So just want to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll pick it up a bit too. It's been off season, and somebody here got married, and so
it's true. I got married. I had a concussion. I improved from that. I don't have a black eye anymore. Went on a honeymoon. All sorts of things. But I have lots of draft content coming out. I've been working on my list this week pretty extensively. I'm hoping to get like a top 50 out soon. Just trying to arrange some dudes and lots of ideas of who the Sharks could draft and who I could draft for my team. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I know it's been a while since we've joined you, so hopefully you enjoyed the Scott Wheeler talk. And then right now, the Joshua Ravensbergen interview, which was
just a little fun thing to how do I say, a little dessert. So
a little dessert, Mr. Goalie.
Little cappuccino to end this meal. So
all right, see you guys. Bye.
We want to welcome in Joshua Ravensbergen, San Jose Sharks 2025 first-round pick and recent WHL Goaltender of the Year. Hey, Joshua, what's up?
Not much. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, Josh, we're going to start off with a question I got to ask. So do you agree that goalies are the weirdest person on the team? Because in my experience, this tends to be true. And when they're super normal, I'm like worried they're serial killers. So where are you on that spectrum? And do you agree that the goalies are the weirdest person on the team?
Are you
Not
weird
all.
or are you a serial killer?
Not all of them.
Not all of them. Like, I'm sure there's some that fit the stereotype, but from my experience, most of the guys I played with, they're pretty normal. I feel like I'm pretty normal anyways. But I have to ask my teammates about that.
There you go.
Well, Joshua, you had an incredible season, 32 wins. You went to the World Juniors. Like I mentioned, won WHL Goalie of the Year. What's one individual thing in your game that really improved this season?
I felt like my stance was a lot better. I seen pucks a lot better. I felt like I just slowed the game down a little bit, and I think it just comes from experience. Like third year in the league, you have to be improving really if you want to go anywhere in hockey. My third year, so I felt like it was a good step forward for me, and I had a good group of guys around me to support me, and kept it pretty simple for most of the year on my part. But overall, I felt like I did improve and took a big step forward, and just hoping to keep that going.
And your biggest highlight of the year, obviously you had a bunch of highlight reel saves, but might be fighting the Penticton V's netminder Ethan McCallum. How did that start? Was that your first fight ever?
Yeah, I just looked. There's always in the back of my head that I wanted to do one eventually, and I looked down the ice like, late in the game, and he was shaking his gloves. So I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go." And, yeah, it was good.
Did you know him pretty well beforehand?
No, I'd never talked to him before or after. Just
All right.
happened.
And
Yeah,
you knocked him down.
Yeah, you did.
yeah. So
When you,
I can
when
say
you
I
say
want to know,
shake-
which is
when you say shaking his
Yes, you
glove,
are.
I think
Wanna
about
know.
chill fight when you're just like just pressing the X button or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. All right. Well, Josh, I got to ask you because I got 4 nephews and 3 of them are goalies. also all three weird, but for different reasons. The only normal one's the one that's playing forward. But
Of course.
so just, advice to a young goalie today, what would you tell them to focus on, like skill set, mindset, athleticism, stretching? Like, what would you tell a young goaltender today?
I feel like a lot of athleticism when you're younger, like that's kind of something you can't really learn as you get older. So I think when you're younger, it's important to play all different sports. I was kind of doing everything. I was playing baseball, I was biking, I was snowboarding. I was doing as much as I could. I feel like that's why I feel like I'm athletic, anyways. And from what I've heard, it's harder to train the older you are. So just play as many sports as possible. And in terms of goalie stuff, I feel like skating from a young age is really important too. You got to work on your skating. You got to be able to get to the places because if you're in the right spot, way higher chance you're gonna make a save. And so I feel like those are the two things I'd say.
You
That's
mentioned a
great.
lot of sports. What's the sport that you miss the most? Now you're obviously specialized in hockey, and also too some sports you mentioned you probably shouldn't do because that would be bad contractually. But
Yeah,
what do you miss the most?
probably baseball. Like, I was big into baseball. It was always
Oh,
hockey and baseball, and those really kind of two sports I played growing up. And didn't really know which one I liked more like early on, and then decided to switch to hockey. But it was a lot of fun. You're with the team again, and yeah, I just really enjoy going to the ballpark.
you strike me as either and let me know if I'm wrong. You strike me as either a tall power pitcher or you're kind of a an outfielder type. So what was your position?
I played pitcher and shortstop till about like 10 or 11.
Okay.
And then I started training more hockey, and then I kind of fell off baseball wise, and they sent me to the outfield. But for the prime of my baseball career as a pitcher and shortstop.
Okay.
I love it. For next year, you're going to be continuing your development at Michigan State, right? What made that the right place for you to continue your career? And did you look at what the Michigan State did with top prospect Trey Augustine, or have you talked to Trey at all about being at Michigan State?
Yeah, I think seeing Trey and amazing goaltender, so I think that just gives you a little more security going in, like knowing that they were able to produce a guy like that or help him grow anyways. So I think that just gives you a little peace of mind, and their whole program just seems unreal. From what I've heard, they're really focused on development. So I'm really looking forward to that. Lots of time in the gym with a really good trainer, from what I've heard, and it's just all really tailored to you. So I'm looking forward to it.
So last summer we mentioned you practiced with Macklin Celebrini and Connor Bedard in Vancouver. You're a Vancouver boy yourself. You said that the release points were different. I think I asked you about their shots last year. Can you kind of get into a little more of the goalie granular detail? What's different about their shots?
I think just everyone has their own kind of release. Like some are quicker, some are a little slower. Um, some people are a little more accuracy. Some people like tend to read the goalie a little more. Just everybody, they're both unreal in their own ways. Obviously, both two high end top of the NHL players. So it's really really amazing whenever I'm out with those guys.
And especially with Connor, because you're seeing him, more right now. Like, what's kind of the hardest thing to stop about his shot then?
He just gets it off so quick and so accurate and a lot faster than what I'm used to, anyways. So it's tough to stop sometimes.
And then Macklin, what's the hardest thing to stop about his shot?
I think just how smart he is, like how he's able to read the goalie, and he's always working
Mm,
on things, like
okay.
working on different releases and different spots he's trying to shoot. So I'd say that's what's interesting about him.
Be honest, whose shot have you stopped more, like, percentage in your head?
Percentage in my head,
Yeah.
I don't know. They're both challenging to stop.
No,
Takes the best out of me.
you don't want to call yourself a Connor stopper or a Macklin stopper?
No, no.
Well, Josh, what's it been like learning from both Ryan Miller and Nabokov, and any insights that they've given you that really changed the way you maybe thought about the position or any technical things?
Yeah. Obviously, it's been really cool working with those guys. Nabby and Millsy both had unreal NHL careers. So, hopefully you want to be in their shoes one day. I worked with Nabby more in training camp, and then Miller, he's come up to PG quite a few times. So I was more working with him through the season, and he really wanted to hammer like my stance, my hands, kind of the levels I was playing at through the game. And I think my stance has improved. I look more the part of a goalie a little more now, a little more structured and composed. I think that's due to lots of his help. And yeah, but they've both been really good to me. It's really cool learning off him.
Was he Ryan Miller? Was he sort of an inside agent for Michigan State to get you to go there?
No, he wanted to stay out of it because obviously, yeah, he was unreal there. He's a legend at Michigan State, but I wanted me to make the decision for my own. And I just thought this is the best place to go for my own development.
Love it. Your teammate Carson Carels has been mentioned at the top end of this year's draft, and even as early as today has been a pick for the Sharks at number 2 in some mock drafts online. Can you speak about what you see as a goalie that makes him so effective as a defenseman, if that question makes sense?
Yeah, he's just really smart. He's physical. He loves the guys. Can't say enough good things about him, but things I noticed, like even on the power play, like holding on to a puck to wait an extra couple seconds till the guy screens the goalie, and then he'll pick the corners pretty well from the point. He's a really good shot. Like in practice, I thought it was one of the best, if not the best, on the team. Yeah, as I said before, super physical. He likes getting into it with guys, and just a really good teammate as well. So if the Sharks pick him at 2, I think Sharks fans would be pretty happy with him.
What's something about Carson Carels that most fans don't see or don't really know about? If you could share with us.
Yeah, he loves Dairy Queen.
He loves Dairy Queen. Okay.
What's his order?
Just a blizzard. Maybe he'll get some chicken strips too.
There you go.
Loves candy. Loves candy
What a
as
beauty.
well.
Love it.
Yeah.
What's his favorite candy?
He likes live wires. He loves candy.
Okay.
I love it.
All right. Well, there are Dairy Queens in San Jose, so that's good news.
Fit
Yeah.
right
Is it
in.
really? I've never seen one.
I think so. Yeah. All right.
It's
I'm
gotta
not
be.
confusing it.
Well,
All right, we'll
there's
fact
in and
check
outs,
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if I'm in the Midwest or something, I'll grab some, but barely ever in the Bay do I see one. But
Hmm.
all right, so Josh, you watch any playoff hockey, bud?
Yeah, I try to. Games on. I like watching it.
Nice,
Pretty exciting right now. Yeah, just see
Yeah.
Vegas complete the sweep yesterday.
dude. That was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comeback game from Game 3 was absolutely bonkers.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was a fun game. Well, so have you
Okay.
been watching any Dobish? Because there's obviously debates about playing the puck, and fans obviously hate it when it goes horribly wrong. And, Sharks have 2 tendies that can handle the puck well, both in, Askey and Ned. But then you watch someone like Dobish, and you can see how the skaters are coached to sort of move off the puck and support him. Sort of creates like a 3-man D unit. And so just your thoughts on playing the puck, and is that a skill you're developing? And what have you seen in Dobish if you watch playoff hockey?
Yeah, definitely develop, and I feel like that's something in my game that has to get better. Just finding ways to help out your team break out, have a little more offensive time throughout the game, and it can really add up. And I think Dobish is just aggressive with it. I don't think I'll ever get that aggressive with playing the puck, but I need to get a little bit better, getting back there more often, just helping the guys out. So something kind of working on over the summer, just picking pucks up and getting a little scan, being a little more aware of what's going on. And hopefully next year I'm really good at that and helping the guys break out consistently.
All right, Joshua, I want to give you some breaking news that you can pass on to Carls. There are 2 Dairy Queens in San Jose, 2 of them. So, yeah.
That's
so-
awesome. Yeah.
One close to
Yeah.
where you live, Zubair. So, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
let you know where it is.
Okay, all
right. Just a couple more questions here for you, Josh. Thanks so much for taking the time. When we talked last summer at Dev Camp, you talked about just being a big Bruins fan, which is, of course, was just hilarious because you're in Vancouver. Being a big Tim Thomas, Tuukka Rask guy. Just wondering, was that kind of Bruins Cup run the thing that made you kind of fall in love with goaltending, with I guess the Bruins too? I know that you're only about like 4 years old at the time, but how did that impact you in terms of choosing to be a goalie?
No, like my cousins, we had a road hockey set, and that's kind of how I got into hockey. Kind of love playing it with all my cousins and family. So that's kind of how I started when I was really little. I don't really remember the cup run. Like I was just always a Bruins fan. And I just remember hating the Canucks for some reason. Don't know why. But
It's a good choice. Good choice.
yeah, but now obviously I'm a Sharks fan. But
And one last one for me. This has been killing me for a couple of years, just because your name is, people call you Josh, people call you Joshua. I see in your handle here it says Joshua. So when you have your first NHL rookie card, what do you prefer? Are you gonna be like, yeah, I would rather have a Joshua Ravensbergen on the card, or Josh? What sort of right now, set the record straight. Is it Josh or Joshua?
I don't really have a preference. Whatever people want to call me.
Jay.
I feel like Josh is just easier to say sometimes.
I stop pucks.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mr. Goalie. Mr. Goalie it is. All right.
upper deck hockey. When you make that card, he doesn't care, but it does say Joshua in your handle now. So let's assume that's your preference.
Yeah, sure.
Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, Josh, I really appreciate the time here. We'll see you in Dev Camp, I guess, in a couple of months here. And have a great summer, man.
Yeah. Thanks. You guys too.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, bud. See ya.
Okay. Have a good one.
Thanks, Mr. Goalie.